The day the richest man came to school looking for his biological daughter, I took my daughter to get a vaccination and missed him, but unexpectedly, my daughter has every trait the richest man described. Thinking she had missed her chance to become the richest man's daughter, she strongly demanded that I contact him. I refused and made it clear to her that she is my daughter, my own flesh and blood. She temporarily dropped the idea and stopped bringing it up, but later, when I fell ill in old age, she cruelly locked me in the house and wouldn't let me go to the hospital. Back then, you stopped me from finding my rich dad and made me miss out on a life of wealth and luxury. Everything happening to you now is just what you deserve. In the end, I died of illness at home, and my body wasn't discovered until it had already started to decompose. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day the richest man came to school looking for his daughter, since she wants so badly to be the evil ghost's daughter. Then I'll send her there myself. Mom, I don't want to get a shot. I have to go to school today. Suddenly, a child's angry shout rang in my ears. The moment I looked down, I was so startled that I stumbled back 3 steps. This little girl in 3rd grade, standing right in front of me, is my own flesh and blood. At this moment, she was throwing a tantrum relentlessly, rolling on the ground. No matter what, she refused to go to the hospital with me and insisted on going to school today. But in the past, she was never a diligent or studious child. If you don't take me to school, I will make you regret it. Looking at my daughter's face, twisted with an ugliness that seemed from a past life, now that she was back in this child's body, she looked exceptionally sharp. Clearly, she seemed to know what was going to happen at school today. I nodded impassively and agreed right away. It seems I was right. My daughter has also been reborn. In her previous life, she was delayed by a vaccination, so by the time she returned to school, the man searching for his family had already left. She only heard about what happened from her classmates and teachers, who even described the birthmark of the richest man's daughter. That young girl didn't understand what it meant to become the daughter of the wealthiest man. Still, she hurriedly went to find her homeroom teacher, and she discovered that the birthmark in the photo was exactly the same as the one on her own body. Ever since then, my daughter constantly cried and asked about her origins, firmly believing she was a wealthy heiress that everyone envied. But after I rejected her time and time again, she eventually came to hate me to the bone. What I never expected, though, was that the knot I had failed to untangle back then would become the very means to torment me to the end. After raising my daughter with great hardship and devotion, the successful daughter not only kept her distance from me but resolutely moved away to develop her career elsewhere. Even when I was old and terminally ill, she refused to contribute a single extra cent. She cruelly locked me at home and refused to let me go to the hospital. As I lay dying, she said viciously, "Back then, you stopped me from finding my billionaire father and made me miss out on a life of wealth. Everything happening to you now is just what you deserve." In the end, I died of illness at home, and my body wasn't found until it had already begun to rot. My heart was bleeding, but she smiled brightly and said, "Mom, you insisted on keeping me here to live a hard life with you. Otherwise, I would have been long gone." The moment I finally understood, my greatest regret was keeping my daughter by my side. In the end, I could only pass away with regret. Fortunately, heaven had mercy, and both my daughter and I were given a second chance. Rushing into the school, my daughter was determined to find the man. Having finally broken free from my control, in an instant, she burst into the meeting room where the man was being received. I could see every move she made with perfect clarity. In my previous life, I would have been frantic by now, but this time, I kept my distance. I just wanted to stay hidden. "Teacher, I'm the one you're looking for." The daughter's muddled words made others think she was there to cause trouble. No sooner had the homeroom teacher approached her than she was pushed away. He could only watch helplessly as his daughter ran toward the man. "Uncle, I'm Nyen. I'm the one you're looking for." The man's gaze finally landed on his daughter. He frowned deeply, discontent clear on his face. He said, "Little girl, you've mistaken me for someone else. I don't know you." The daughter was furious. If she failed to claim this kinship, she would have to go back to her old life. No way. She absolutely would not allow this young lady's identity to slip away from her. The daughter then grabbed the man's sleeve tightly. Wrinkles immediately appeared on the haute couture suit. For this already fastidious man, it was absolutely unbearable. "Whose child is this? Take her away at once. I don't like such ill-mannered girls." Clearly, the man before her was not as kind and amiable as her daughter had imagined. I watched with my own eyes as my daughter was thrown out. I felt exceptionally pleased. I watched her standing there, at a loss for what to do. I barely suppressed my laughter before returning to her side. "Nyen, Where did you go? You can't just run off like that. Get to class. I scolded her, deliberately putting on a stern face. How dare she try to abandon me, her own mother, at such a young age? Humph, if you won't take me to find Dad, you don't deserve to be my mom. The child who had seemed so well behaved in front of others suddenly became a stranger. Only then did I realize that perhaps she had long wanted to drop the act. I gave a cold snort, unlike before. I no longer felt sorry for her and held her in my arms. Fine, if you want to find your real father, go ahead. I had already told her that that man was long dead. As far as I was concerned, it made no difference whether he was dead or alive. Seeing my indifferent attitude, my daughter seemed to realize something. After all, she wasn't yet the daughter of some wealthy, powerful family. In the end, doesn't he still have to rely on me, an ordinary woman, to support him? Talk about giving her the world. Seeing that I was genuinely angry, my thoughtful daughter quickly tried to charm her way back into my good graces. Mom, I was wrong. I'll go study hard right now, and when I grow up, I'll take good care of you. Heh, take care of me. Just thinking about how she tormented me before I died in my past life, I know exactly what to expect. It is precisely because I know what her biological father is like that I don't want her to be reclaimed by him. But how did she treat me, as a single mother? I endured all kinds of hardships to raise her, only to end up abandoned in return. 3. Now seeing my daughter's ugly expression again. It absolutely disgusts me. Mom, are you going to abandon me? At that moment, my daughter opened her arms and wanted me to hold her. I watched her strategizing, trying to make a fool of me. In the end, I still spread my arms open. All right, hurry back to the classroom. Don't cause me any trouble at school. My words, directly and indirectly, reminded her to behave herself. In this life, I will no longer dance to her tune. Back in the classroom, my daughter was different from the other childish and naive students. In front of all her classmates, she started boasting outright. Let me tell you all, I'm about to go study at an elite private school. This place doesn't belong to me at all. The classmates were completely baffled by her words. The daughter then began to show off. The news that a wealthy magnate was searching for his bloodline at the school spread like wildfire. The daughter confidently revealed her unique birthmark. Look, Nian Nian really does have that birthmark on her arm. Could she really be the rich heiress? Wow, Nian Nian, you're so lucky. The daughter nodded proudly. Of course, once my father finds me, I won't have to stay here anymore. She dreamed of leaving the small county for a big city, while also planning how to break free from my control. Since she was little, I had taken care of every detail of my daughter's daily life. In others' eyes, I was a good mother, yet I had become a stumbling block in my daughter's heart. Sure enough, when the homeroom teacher received an assignment from higher-ups and began searching for children with birthmarks, the daughter stepped forward without hesitation. Teacher, I also have a birthmark. Look at mine. A sharp gleam flashed in her eyes, and she became unusually excited. The homeroom teacher's eyes naturally lit up. If she could find the wealthy man's daughter, she might get a promotion and a raise herself. Great, Nian Nian, come with me. The daughter, along with a group of other students with birthmarks, had their blood samples collected by professionals. Only those who share a blood relation are qualified to see the man. She was not worried about this at all. The moment she saw the man again, the daughter had already regarded him as her own biological father. After several days of anxious waiting, I calmly sent my daughter to school. Then I saw that familiar luxury car again. Clearly, he had come again. Nian Nian, come with me to the conference room. Upon hearing this, the daughter became utterly excited. She had had enough of the hard, struggling life from before. In this life, she could finally shake me off the deadweight and begin the life of a rich young lady. The moment she saw the man again, unlike the coldness from last time, there was now a hint of a smile on his face. You must be Nian Nian, my good daughter. Come here quickly. Upon hearing the call, the daughter immediately threw herself into the man's arms. Such a touching scene of a loving father and devoted daughter. Your mother must have never told you about your origins, has she? The daughter shook her head, looking utterly innocent. Are you really my father? The man nodded vigorously, seeming quite pleased with how readily the daughter accepted him. Don't worry, I'll get you back by my side as soon as possible. But my mother will never agree to that. The professional team behind the man immediately stepped in to offer advice. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. Although changing guardianship is indeed difficult, it's not impossible to take the child away. For, hearing this, the man smiled with ease. He turned around and immediately began reassuring his daughter. You'll live with daddy from now on, okay? The daughter was overjoyed and could hardly wait to throw herself into the wealthy man's arms. After everything she had been through, she could finally reclaim her own identity and return to her rightful family. By the time school let out, that car had long since disappeared. Watching my daughter walk out of the classroom looking proud and smug, I silently breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed I didn't need to plan the family reunion myself. She was already more than eager enough on her own. After getting home, I prepared dinner as usual. Looking at the simple fare on the table, my daughter found it even harder to accept, though she still appeared to be a child on the outside. Inside she seemed to house a woman with 30 years of life experience. The daughter clicked her tongue in dissatisfaction. Mom, can we just eat out today? I don't want to eat this stuff. I gave her a deep look. On any normal day, I would have lectured her about saving food, but now, I didn't have the right to do that. Sweetheart, it's all my fault for not being capable enough. If you had been born into a rich family, you'd definitely be eating the finest food. I put on a sad look, but my daughter immediately became interested. Mom, then tell me, who exactly is my father? Is he not dead after all? Although now she was certain that she was the daughter of a wealthy family, but until the man actually showed up to take her away, she still had to stay obediently by my side. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, then turned around and changed my attitude. Don't ask about your father. Even if I told you, you wouldn't know him. My daughter was very unhappy with my attitude. After dinner, she secretly took my phone and called the number the man had left. Is this Daddy? When can you come take me away? Mom has been abusing me all day. I want to live with Dad. Sure enough, the man across from her was furious when he heard his daughter's exaggerated account of her grievances. Oh really? So she's dared to treat you like this all these years? Don't worry, sweetheart, I'll come get you right away. I stood silently behind her, watching my daughter's deliberate performance. Anyone watching would find it hard to believe that an elementary school student could act so flawlessly. Only then did I understand. So this was how she had felt in the previous life. She actually hates me to the bone. This time, I won't dedicate my entire life to such an ungrateful wretch. Soon enough, speak of the devil and he shall appear. The moment she heard the doorbell, the daughter rushed over immediately. The self-important man walked coldly into the house. Shuyu, long time no see. When our eyes met, I couldn't help but recall memories from the past. Back then, young and naive, I was deceived by the man's looks and his vows. Laced with sweet words, young and naive, with my heart just beginning to stir, I thought I had found true love. Little did I expect that after finding out I was pregnant, this man showed not a trace of joy, and instead insisted that I abort the child. Only later did I learn that my dear boyfriend was no ordinary rich man. He was the heir to a century-old enterprise, Lu Jiaming, with such a prominent family background. Naturally, they would never allow anyone to use a pregnancy to secure a place in the family. Early the next morning, I received a nutrition allowance of tens of thousands of yuan as compensation for the abortion. Clearly, they were trying to fob me off with money. 5. I thought I could secretly give birth to the child and break up with Lu Jiaming, then they would leave my daughter and me alone. Looking at it now, genetics is truly remarkable. Even though I gave birth to the child safely, she, just like her father, is an ungrateful wretch who can't be civilized. Standing by the side, my daughter, her eyes red and swollen, stared at Lu Jiaming. Dad. With those words, Lu Jiaming immediately pulled his daughter into his arms. The way they acted so affectionately made it seem as if I were the only one guilty of tearing them apart. Put my daughter down. You have no right to take her away. Even though I had long prepared myself mentally, when this scene actually unfolded before my eyes, that old scar in my heart resurfaced once again. Lu Jiaming looked down at me condescendingly and spoke with great contempt. Who told you not to listen to reason and insist on having the child in the first place? I will never allow a child of the Lu family's bloodline to be left outside the family. I was trembling with rage, but my daughter was already whisked aside by the secretary. This is my compensation to you, 5 million to sever your mother-daughter relationship. Lu Jiaming then handed me a contract of his own accord. Attached beneath the written terms was a paternity test. Without absolute certainty, the Lu family would never have come calling so decisively. My daughter nervously clenched her fists. She knew that if I refused to let her go, returning to the Lu family would only cause more trouble. Pretending to be reluctant to part, my daughter came to me and shed crocodile tears. Mom, you've kept me from having Dad around all these years. I want to live with Dad from now on. Please just let me go home with Dad. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache, but given the lesson from my past life, how could I possibly hold her back? After a moment's silence, I smiled faintly. If you want to take your daughter away, you'll have to give me 10 million. What, 10 million? Hearing this number, the secretary beside him froze in place. Miss Shu Yu, don't go too far, I asked calmly. Lu Jiaming, you wouldn't begrudge even this little amount, would you? I deliberately shielded my daughter behind me. See that, sweetheart, your dad doesn't think you're worth the price. My daughter swallowed nervously, her eyes fixed on Lu Jiaming. This was the key moment that would decide her future. Suddenly, she burst into tears. Daddy, please don't abandon Nian Nian. Very good, the louder she cried, the more I would earn. Fine, I can give you the money. Lu Jiaming neatly wrote me a check, then reached for his daughter's hand. Nian Nian, from now on, you're part of the Lu family. This result naturally pleased the daughter. I was secretly delighted. I finally managed to completely shake off that burden, and even made a good profit out of it. I have to admit, we both got what we wanted. Seeing that I didn't look particularly upset, Lu Jiaming became even more convinced of his daughter's words. He tried his best to show his kind side and warned me, take this money. From now on, you have nothing to do with this child. If it's not necessary, don't come to see the child either. Lu Jiaming thought I would strongly object. After all, Nian Nian was born after my 10 months of pregnancy. What mother in the world doesn't love her own child? I'm embarrassed to say that I'm the exception. I quickly nodded and promised repeatedly, don't worry, I know the rule. Take the money and solve the trouble for the client. Take the child away, and I will never bother you again. My daughter, who had been watching all this, turned pale with shock. 6. In her previous life, I had valued her more than my own life, and now, I was just turning around and selling her off. That is just too heartless. Even so, the daughter showed no trace of reluctance on her face. What awaited her ahead was a promising future. After making everything thoroughly clear, I swiftly packed up all of my daughter's belongings. Let them take it all away, although the Lu family would surely buy her new replacements for these things, but I couldn't very well keep trash in my own home. After watching Lu Jiaming and my daughter leave, only then did I truly feel the taste of complete liberation. After cashing the check, I sold off the house and the car as well. To prevent tragedy from happening again, I even deliberately deleted all people and matters related to my daughter. With the 10 million Lu Jiaming gave me, plus my own savings, I easily became a young, successful, and wealthy woman. The prime youth I missed out on in my ignorant younger days came back to me with interest this time. I began traveling aimlessly to various places, chauffeur-driven business vans, first-class travel experiences, and endless luxury jewelry and accessories to your heart's content, even though I had already given birth to one child. Thanks to the upkeep that money can buy, I was completely transformed, looking even fresher and more vibrant than a college student. After traveling across half the country, I casually settled down in a third-tier city. I also invested some of my cash in a few projects, using money to generate even more money. When my best friend and I met again, she gaped so wide that her mouth could fit a whole egg. Not only did I seem like a completely different person from head to toe, but wherever I went, I was the center of attention. Even my romantic prospects shot up dramatically. After learning the ins and outs of the matter, my best friend couldn't help but give me a thumbs up. Shuyu, you really are a woman as strong as an eagle. That child you nearly lost your life to give birth to. Are you truly willing to let her go? In the eyes of my friends, I have always been a family-oriented woman, so easily giving away her daughter was truly jaw-dropping. I gave a resigned shrug and a faint smile. Even if I kept the child, she would grow up resenting me for it. How could I not let her live a better life? Upon hearing this, my best friend also felt relieved for me. Back then, I went through a lot of hardship to have this child. I was forced to drop out of school and kicked out by my family. Eventually, I was completely abandoned by Lu Jiaming. Even after all those ordeals, I never gave up on my child. Looking back now, I was truly foolish in my past life. Thankfully, fate gave me another chance, so I can still change my life. During the days when I completely disappeared from sight, I focused entirely on making money and building my career. With no one else to weigh me down, I've finally achieved financial freedom, of course, all thanks to Lu Jiaming's 10 million in seed capital, which let me turn the tables against all odds. But the ones I should thank even more are myself and my ruthlessly heartless daughter. Without external distractions, I have money, good looks, and a figure that's second to none. I'm surrounded by countless suitors. including men even richer than Lu Jiaming. But when it comes to those scheming rich second-generation heirs, I've learned my lesson the hard way. When you're just out to have fun, there's no need to be sincere. Just like Lu Jiaming back in the day, you have to roam among 1,000 flowers without letting a single petal touch you. 7. So, even though I'm 30, I can still get an 18-year-old guy. He's tall, handsome, obedient, and comes whenever I call, even if he's only after my money. I'm not the least bit worried he'll leave me. After all, I have plenty of money. My relationship with the young guy kept getting better, and soon it was time to talk about marriage. Normally, I would have turned him down flat, citing my age, but seeing his tearful eyes, I held back my temper and patiently comforted him. I confessed everything about my past. Not only had I given birth to a child, but I had also sold her to her biological father. When my young boyfriend found out, instead of minding it, he held me even tighter. Sister, now that I'm by your side, I'll never betray you like your daughter did. Betray, hearing that word, I was slightly stunned. She is a piece of my own flesh and blood. I was only respecting her wishes, while I was busy enjoying life. The daughter taken home by Lu Jiaming did not end up living the life she had imagined. Dad, how could you ask me to donate a kidney? At first, when she had just returned to the Lu family mansion, she was indeed treated as a respected young lady. But gradually, the daughter finally realized something was wrong. It turned out that over the years, Lu Jiaming had long married the daughter of a foreign enterprise and had a son with her. As the saying goes, a mother's status rises with her son, backed by the wife's legitimate position and the traditional preference for sons over daughters. Even though the Lu family had long known about Nian Yan's existence, they had never intended to let her in, that is, until their son fell seriously ill and needed a relative's kidney. Lu Jiaming would never think of forcing a family connection. He is your younger brother. As a member of the Lu family, whether you want to or not, you have to accept it. Lu Jiaming roared angrily. The stepmother behind him also stepped forward. You little wretch, if my son hadn't been a match for you, did you really think you could set foot in this family? The harsh truth caught the daughter completely off guard. She stared wide-eyed at the man she called father, tears streaming down her face. Once the surgery was successful, she would become a discarded pawn again, mercilessly abandoned by Lu Jiaming. No, you can't do this to me. I am your own daughter. Faced with his hysterical daughter, Lu Jiaming showed not a trace of fatherly love. To prevent his daughter from escaping, he locked her directly in the basement. Only when the surgery is completed will she be granted freedom. That night, I suddenly received a text message from an unknown number. Mom, save me. They want to take my kidneys. Please. You must come and rescue me. The young dog cuddled in my arms also saw this message. Sis, you. Before he could finish, I blocked and deleted him, then tossed my phone aside. In bed, I prefer it when you call me baby. Instantly, the heated mood drowned out that mood-killing text message. I've always been a person who keeps my word and follows through on what I say. The day I took that 10 million from Lu Jiaming, my daughter ceased to exist in this world. After a bout of passion, I pulled up the latest gossip news, and on the screen was Lu Jiaming with his arm around his wife. In her arms was a healthy little boy, smiling especially sweetly. Everyone was envying this perfect couple, with their two families joining through marriage. It was truly a powerful alliance. 8. Yes, for a man like Lu Jiaming, his marriage was naturally built on interests. It's just that their child is healthy, but behind this, it was bought with my daughter's kidney. How ironic. I pulled the number out of my phone's block list. The next moment, the phone on the other end rang. It seemed my daughter still hadn't given up. Mom, is that you? They forced me to have surgery and kicked me out of the Lu family. Mom, where are you? Listening to my daughter play the victim, I finally understood what had happened during that time. The legitimate wife of the Lu family was inherently volatile and would never allow an illegitimate daughter like mine to exist, let alone spending 10 million for no reason just to secure this kidney donor. Mom, I know I was wrong. Please come and take me home. You're my only real mother. I gave a cold snort. If you knew this day would come, why did you act otherwise in the first place, thinking you could rise to the top and become a phoenix, only to end up a fallen one worse off than a chicken? Annoyed, I handed my phone to my boyfriend. Sorry, little one, you've got the wrong number. Not long after, my best friend suddenly sent me a video. I tapped to play it. The person begging outside the Lu family mansion was none other than my own flesh and blood. Although we have all been reborn and returned, but now a little girl in elementary school who's also missing a kidney has undoubtedly hit rock bottom. In the video, Lu Jiaming, holding his biological son in his arms, kicked his daughter outside the door. "If you dare call me Dad again, I'll break your legs. I don't have a daughter like you." Keeping his daughter at home, Lu Jiming merely gained another servant. The servants who once greatly respected her naturally followed suit, sucking up to the powerful and trampling on the weak. All the hardest and most tiring work was left for her alone to do. At the request of her stepmother, she was forbidden from identifying herself as a member of the Lu family, and was even deprived of the right to continue her education in her previous life. The daughter had at least managed to become a strong, independent woman through her academic achievements, but the Lu family directly cut off every possible path her life could have taken. She was in pain, yet too weak to go anywhere else. To survive, she still spared no effort in searching for my whereabouts. She firmly believed that as long as I knew how she was doing, I would surely take her home. In fact, from the moment she chose Lu Jiming, the bond of blood between us had long ceased to exist. Hearing my best friend's complaint left me completely unmoved. When she offered to lend a hand, I sternly refused. "Don't waste your energy. Living in the Lu family mansion is the best outcome for her." After I hung up, my young boyfriend looked at me in confusion. "Sis, that little girl is really awful. She only remembers the mother who was good to her when things are going badly for her." Of course, I understand the saying that every pitiable person has their detestable side, though I do feel sorry for my daughter's plight. This life was her own choice, and it has nothing to do with me. After a few years of peaceful living, I felt increasingly happy. Over the years, the young pup had been completely loyal to me, even making me entertain the thought of growing old together. Unfortunately, I'd already been fooled by Lu Jiming, so I had little interest in true feelings or men. It's all just temporary companionship and interests tying us together. After I finished traveling to various countries, I once again set foot on familiar ground. In just a few years, the Lu family's century-old enterprise had unfortunately gone under due to poor management. Naturally, his wealthy young wife left him when the going got tough. I learned from a real estate agent that Lu Jiming's mansion was being sold off by creditors. Such a low price was just like the culprit that led to my daughter and me going our separate ways. I waved my hand generously and bought it. 9. The accumulation of wealth over these years has seen my assets surpass 100 million. Many well-known entrepreneurs want to get to know me. At a banquet, I unexpectedly heard news about my daughter. "You all have no idea. After Lu Jiming went bankrupt, his wife took their son and ran off, and he even sold his own daughter into a club." "What, you mean that sickly one? Who knows, he might have been tortured to death long ago." My eyes darkened. I had long experienced Lu Jiming's ruthlessness, but I never expected him to be even worse than an animal. The crowd at the banquet kept flattering me. By the time it ended, I was already dizzy from all the drinking. "Zhang Shuyu, I'll fight you to the death. Prepare to die." A dark figure suddenly lunged at me. "Someone, grab her." Just at this critical moment, her boyfriend's arm was injured. Only then did he snatch the dagger from that person's hand. Looking at the frail woman with a dirty face before me, I recognized at a glance that she was my own flesh and blood. "You wretch, if it weren't for you, how could my life have turned out like this? Even as a ghost, I will never let you off. Just you wait." Watching my stubborn daughter, my heart pounded fiercely. "Nian Nian, don't forget that you chose all of this yourself from the very beginning. Your biological father is Lu Jiming. Isn't reclaiming him as your father exactly what you've always dreamed of?" My daughter was grinding her teeth with rage, wishing she could skin me alive. It was not until the security personnel took her away that I gradually calmed down. "Are you okay? Let me have a look." My boyfriend shook his head, knowing this was the ungrateful daughter I had mentioned. "Sister, I'm fine, don't worry. I won't press charges against her." I shook my head. Someone as radical as my daughter would only become a scourge if left in society. Taking this chance to send her through rehabilitation could be considered a contribution to society. Besides, since she hurt the one I love, she must pay the price. She brought this all upon herself. After sending my daughter to prison, I established a leading enterprise right there in the local area, but what I didn't expect was to run into a former acquaintance the very next day. Looking at Lu Jiming, disheveled and reeking of a foul smell, I furrowed my brows slightly. This once dashing and charming rich young master was now as wretched and downtrodden as a beggar on the street, and the positions between him and me had undergone a drastic shift. "Why are you here? There's nothing left between us anymore." I coldly disassociated myself from him, having no desire to get entangled with such a worthless person again. Lu Jiming's face instantly turned crimson upon hearing this. Shuyu, I know that back then, the fact that you were willing to have a daughter for me means I still have a place in your heart. I may be down and out now, but if you're willing to give me another chance, I will definitely give you a good life. Watching Lu Jiaming act so hysterically, I couldn't help but laugh. I don't know who gave him the confidence to still say such things. He was the one who abandoned me and our daughter back then, and now he's the one trying to live off a woman. Wake up, my boyfriend is younger and better looking than you. Why would I choose you? My young, doting boyfriend walked over and pulled me into his arms. Lu Jiaming clenched his fists tightly, finally seeing the situation clearly. You have such a cruel heart. You even sent our own daughter to prison. You must be blind. I regret ever sleeping with you. 10. Lu Jiaming blamed all the mistakes on me alone, just like his daughter, who shares his blood. I waved my hand, having long lost my patience. Enough. If you keep spouting this nonsense, don't blame me for being rude. Guards, get this person out of here now. Seeing my cold, ruthless side, Lu Jiaming drew a sharp breath. Shuyu, you can't do this to me. Give me back the 10 million. I rolled my eyes. Money given is money gone. No taking it back. Besides, didn't I give him a mobile kidney donor after driving away the shameless Lu Jiaming? He was beaten to death with random clubs by creditors who had been waiting for him. At this moment, I came to the prison alone. Seeing her radiant mother again, the daughter changed her previous attitude and pleaded, Mom, I know I was wrong. I will reform myself properly in prison. After I get out, I will still be your daughter. You are my only family left in this world. I shook my head, seeing through her thoughts at a glance. Someone as mercenary as my daughter only had a change of heart because she saw my net worth. Just like when she chose Lu Jiaming back then, it was only because she valued the status of being a wealthy young lady. Nian Nian, this is the last time I will come to see you. From now on, there will be no connection between us whatsoever. Back when Gu Jiaming took our daughter away, he had already handled the household registration, whether legally or emotionally. We have no relationship with each other. The only reason I came here was to see her one last time. Just then, I stood up from my seat. I touched my slightly swollen belly, a smile on my face. Before long, I will welcome a new life, my own flesh and blood. But this time around, there would be no betrayal, no snobbery of favoring the rich over the poor, because his mother was born into privilege. To my surprise, after learning I was pregnant, the young cub moved swiftly to hold a wedding. Only then did I find out. Turns out he's an overwhelmingly wealthy second-generation heir. Next to him, I'm completely out of my league. Looking at my gentle boyfriend, I chided, why didn't you tell me sooner? I actually thought you were only with me because of money. My boyfriend gently placed a kiss on my forehead. Even so, you still said yes to my proposal, didn't you? I laughed until tears came. Only this time, it was because I was too happy. The end. Story 2. In this beast world, would you choose 1,000,000,000 crystals or a perfect figure? My sister and I got transported to this beast world together and bound to a system. On the first day, the system asked us, 1,000,000,000 crystals or a perfect figure, which will you choose? Without hesitation, my sister chose the crystals. She used those priceless gems to attract the mightiest dragon male, only to be tortured to death by a vicious wyvern in its cave. I chose the perfect figure. With this divine physique, suitors never ceased pursuing me, and males across all divine realms went wild for me. When I opened my eyes again, my sister and I had returned to that fateful day of choice. This time, she unhesitatingly picked the enviable body. I just smirked. What did she think such beauty would actually bring? It was endless mating seasons, constantly watching out for rogue beasts. One wrong move and you'd be forced into breeding. I never want to relive those days of perpetual terror. I choose the curvy physique, after my twin sister selected the curvy option, just like my past self. Her chest swelled rapidly while her hips widened dramatically, perfectly matching the beast world's beauty standards. She gazed at her reflection in the system mirror, a smug expression spreading across her face. I watched the calculation in her eyes silently. In her past life, she chose the 1,000,000,000 spirit stones only to meet a gruesome end. She must be quite pleased with her choice now. I'm equally satisfied, for soon my sister will endure the physical agony and the weekly menstrual cycles brought by this mutated body. As for me, I'm grateful to retain my original form, forever spared from such torment. With the 1,000,000,000 spirit stones, I purchased passage to Wolf City and bought myself a house in the beast world. Even in my past life, I knew wolf clans valued loyalty above all. they strictly practice monogamy in relationships. Though I never planned to seek a mate, this tradition conveniently shields me from unwanted advances by other males. The system held 1 billion spirit stones, more than I'd ever need in this lifetime. Yet my sister from the previous life, fearing the system might reclaim them, withdrew every last stone and became their paranoid guardian. 1. I started by withdrawing 100,000 stones to purchase a home, beast servants, and daily necessities. My premium wages attracted only elite beast servants. These skilled hunters maintain impeccable households, stand vigilant night watches, fight when needed, and know exactly how to please their master. Unlike other masters who can't remember their beast servants' names, I've given each creature a proper name. I also taught them practical survival skills, how to roast meat, identify herbs, and even basic knitting techniques. Time flew by, and before I knew it, a year had passed in this beast world. During this time, the chieftain kept introducing me to potential mates, as their customs dictate that adult females must choose a male for breeding, though I was already of age when I arrived and should have selected a mate immediately. I've been putting off the chieftain's arrangements every single month. This year, he was adamant and spoke with urgency. You've already wasted a year. This time you must find a physically strong mate so we can have a litter of robust cubs by next year. To gain the wolf pack's protection, I had to pay a price. The price was finding a male to breed with. Seeing no way out, I reluctantly agreed. The alpha had selected several decent male candidates for me, but having encountered too many exceptional males in my past life, I couldn't muster the slightest interest in any of them. In desperation, the alpha pushed forward his own son. Kellen is my proudest youngest, still not of age. If you reject him too, I'll seriously consider banishing you from the pack. The moment I laid eyes on Kellen, I finally understood the alpha's true intentions. With my gentle nature, never shouting at beast servants nor allowing males near me, the alpha considered me unlike other females, the most even-tempered she-wolf he'd ever known. The clan leader told me this half a year ago, but I didn't pay much attention at the time. Now it's coming back to me. The clan leader wants me to love Kellen and be good to him for the rest of my life. Flustered, I tried to make excuses to refuse, but ended up saying something terribly misleading that day. Clan leader, I'm older than him. What if he's still naive about matters of the heart? Hearing this, the clan leader gave Kellen's shoulder a pat and motioned him to step forward toward me. I felt warm lips brush against my cheek, instinctively raising a hand to cover my face. Kellen also looked embarrassed as he took a step back. No worries, I can learn, the chieftain quickly added. Exactly, you're both beginners. Take your time practicing. Mating is serious business, and timing it right with the seasons matters. I chuckled. This was a line I'd heard countless times in my past life, so worn out it barely registered as crude anymore. Kellen wasn't even of age yet, and his ears turned red as he listened nearby, under pressure from the clan chief's matchmaking. I finally agreed to become Kellen's mate at the altar of truth. Another reason I chose Kellen was his youth. At least I wouldn't have to take responsibility for him right away. The beast world has a rule: females mustn't neglect their mates for over a month, or they'll face the chief's discipline. Before leaving with Kellen, I deliberately found a secluded spot to ask him. I have a low sex drive. Would you be okay if we went over a month without physical intimacy? Kellen visibly froze for a moment when he heard me, then nodded and said, as long as I'm your only partner. I chuckled and stroked his wolf ears that had popped out. Don't worry, you'll be my one and only. In my past life, having too many partners made every day nerve-wracking. They'd constantly report me, landing me in re-education programs. I refused to spend my life under any man's control. That's why I'm perfectly content with Kellen's terms. On Kellen's first day, I had him train with the beast servants. No high-ranking beastkin would stoop to such chores. Though confused, he respected my decision. That night, the beast servants surrounded Kellen singing bizarre chants. When he shot me a puzzled look, I explained, consider it a welcome ritual. They're celebrating your arrival. Tipsy and reckless, I carried a glass of fruit wine to Kellen and forced a drink down his throat. His body burned hot, and in a flash of awareness, he swept me into his arms and carried me swiftly indoors. Moonlight spilled across the warm woolen bedding as our silhouettes merged, our fingers interlaced, now tight, now slack. With Kellen's, when the blankets were thrown aside and that familiar, searing pain shot through me, my drunken haze cleared instantly. Stop, I gasped at Kellen. Desire burned fiercer in Kellen's eyes, yet he obeyed instantly. though his manifested wolf tail lashed restlessly behind him. The memories from my past life were so agonizing that I developed a trauma response to these things, too. Kellen pressed his face against mine, nuzzling me with restless agitation. A wave of nausea hit me as I shoved him away coldly. Get out. My sharp rebuff froze Kellen's affectionate gesture mid-motion. He lowered his head with wounded eyes, the rims tinged red with quiet hurt. I turned away, refusing to look at him as waves of unpleasant memories surged and receded. The next morning, I recalled last night's events. After I'd driven Kellen out, I had no idea where he'd gone. Stepping outside, I immediately met Kellen's gaze. He approached nervously but didn't dare take my hand. Irene, I got drunk after that fruit wine last night. I never meant to do anything you dislike. Can you forgive me? Irene is my nickname. After we became mates, I told him about it, and to my surprise, he remembered it instantly. I gently stroked his head. His wolf ears had already vanished, leaving only a tuft of curly silver-gray hair. Sincerely apologizing, I said, I have plenty of crystals. If there's anything you want, I'll get it for you. I'm still adjusting to what happened last night. I might need some time. Kellen perked up his wolf tail at my words, nuzzling his cheek against mine, all traces of last night's tension gone. Irene, you're so sweet, he murmured. Just 2 months after Kellen and I became mates, my twin sister rushed to Wolf City to flaunt her status in front of me, surrounded by high-ranking males. She immediately grew smug upon seeing only one companion by my side. Feigning concern, she cooed, Sister, I've so many fine males here. This little wolf boy looks barely mature. Can he possibly satisfy your needs? Shall I pick a few from my collection for you? She then tugged forward a white-maned male. This tiger beast's ferocious. Only a physique like mine can handle him. You're too delicate for his mating seasons. Next, she presented a rabbit beast. This one's docile and obedient. He'd serve you well. A smug expression grew increasingly apparent on her face. I glanced at that rabbit beast, all too familiar. In my past life, whenever he approached, I could smell his overwhelming fox stench. He wasn't a rabbit beast at all, but a fox in rabbit's clothing. Fox beasts are two-faced and vindictive. Out of kindness, I took him in during my previous life, only for him to repay me with ingratitude and relentless advances. When he failed to have his way, he tried to kill me. Keeping my composure, I smiled politely. Thank you for your kindness, little sister. A gentle creature like this rabbit beast suits you better. Kellen is all I need. My sister, still eager to introduce more, gripped the fox beast's hand and immediately protested. Sister, the beast world is nothing like where we come from. Without at least a dozen males by your side, you won't survive here. I probably don't have what it takes to find such a fine mate. She glanced at Kellen and remarked disdainfully, Sister actually settled for this. A mere second-tier male beast couldn't possibly protect her properly. I've got crystals now, and hired several beast servants for protection at home. I rarely go out anyway. The wolf tribe keeps females well guarded. Besides, I think Kellen's perfectly fine. He's considerate and never pressures me into anything. Kellen's ears flushed crimson at the mention. Watching the elite four-marked beasts behind my sister, he silently steeled his resolve. The topic seemed to rekindle her ambitions. Noticing the surrounding males' admiring gazes, she suddenly swelled with pride. Sister, if this place is so great, I'll have my males buy 10 houses here. How about I move in? No problem. Not that I'm worried she could actually stay. The wolf clan has strict rules, starting with the first commandment that females can only take one mate in their lifetime, which she'd never abide by. Watching my sister Luna, I could only laugh. Even in this second life, she's still obsessed with one-upmanship, always pinning her hopes on males instead of using her head. Just a single outsider's pass to Wolf City costs 1,000 crystals, with at least 20 males trailing behind her. That's 20,000 crystals just for clan admission, not to mention 2,000 per house here. Does she really have that many spirit stones? Besides, that rabbit beast occasionally reeks. Would the chieftain really let such a shady male into our territory? Just as I predicted, the chieftain refused their request to settle here. First, they couldn't produce the required spirit stones. Second, she travels with too many rogue beasts. Wolf City would never accept 20-plus freeloaders who contribute nothing but consume resources. My sister was quite resourceful though. To stick with me, she quickly hooked up with some male from the wolf clan, but soon after, That wolf male got banished by their alpha for being trouble. Her scheme didn't work out in the end. Kellen's been scarce around the house lately. I figure the kid just wants to explore more during the warm season. Typical youthful restlessness. I didn't pay it much mind. 4. Winter was fast approaching. Soon everything would freeze over, with temperatures plunging below -40 degrees Celsius. Surface food would become scarce, forcing the wolf clans to focus on hunting and storing winter provisions. I too needed to accelerate my business plans. 3 months ago, I invested 1,000 crystals to cultivate 10,000 acres of wasteland in wolf territory. I then hired beast servants to gather fertilizer and seeds. All under my supervision, I organized their annual workload into distinct phases: peak farming seasons, fertilization/planting periods, and scheduled irrigation cycles. Currently, I've employed several beast servants specifically to trap young boars, hares, pheasants, and lambs. They're instructed to hunt only at designated locations using specialized trapping equipment. Beast folk have voracious appetites, typically targeting larger prey. Only the weak, elderly, or infirm would settle for smaller game when incapable of bigger hunts. My beastkin servants didn't disappoint me this year. They've caught 300 wild boar piglets, 210 young hares, over 500 chickens, and 90 sheep. I had them gather firewood and hay to build several simple pens, then moved all the captured animals inside. Every day we harvest vegetables and grains from our vast fields to feed them. Day after day passed until the cold season arrived. On the day the chieftain declared the start of frost season, I rose early to secretly inspect my livestock farm. It took me the entire morning to finish counting all the animals under the shelter I personally built. These poultry have multiplied rapidly. What's more, with the feed I developed, they've grown larger than wild animals and their meat has become exceptionally tender and marbled. It's hard to imagine how many crystals this whole batch would fetch when sold, but my goal isn't just about crystals. I aim to strengthen the wolf kin and elevate our standing in the forest. Only then can I achieve true stability in life, since my farm is quite remote. I've installed security systems around the perimeter and stationed beast servants on constant watch. The wolf kin remain unaware of my massive breeding operation. When the time was right, I had Kellen bring the clan leader to my ranch. The sight of barns overflowing with cattle, sheep, pigs, ducks and chickens left him speechless with awe. After a long pause, he finally managed to ask, "Why you tamed all these creatures yourself?" I nodded and gave Kellen an affectionate pat on the shoulder. That's right, though Kellen here deserves credit too. The place is rather remote, so I had my life partner handle inspecting the beast folk workers instead of making the trip myself. I didn't notice Kellen blushing at my praise. His gaze held not just adoration, but a hint of reverence. The same look beast folk only wore during the annual sacred beast ceremony. The alpha inspected my ranch, counting carefully before declaring, "This will sustain our wolf pack through 3 winter seasons. Irene, you're the most decisive and intelligent female I've ever known." I accepted his praise. In my past life, I dreamed of cultivating fields and ranches in this beast world, but back then, my health deteriorated from the burdens of my ample bosom, and the aggressive males around me frequently banished me to the forbidden lands for correction. I never had the time or peace to pursue such ambitions. Now reborn, I count myself fortunate, with a mate who quietly supports me and the wolf alpha who shields me fiercely. On the second night of winter, Kellen remained in human form. His muscular arms cradled me against his chest as he gazed intently. "Irene," he murmured, "the cold will only worsen. Your delicate female frame can't endure it. I'll soon need to hold you in wolf form every night. My days as a man are numbered. Let's try tonight." Without a word, I wrapped my arms tightly around the male's neck, returning his fervent embrace. Irene, the next morning, I woke feeling unusually warm too. Find Kellen's wolf tail draped over me, his unruly fluffy ears nestled against my neck, alternately tickling and resting peacefully. This was his way of showing affection. I was just about to stroke his wolf ears when I heard an orc shouting my name outside. "Irene, your sister's here." Last time Luna visited, she caught the attention of many male werewolves, so most of them recognize her now. Rising from Kellen's side, I stepped outside and saw Luna being escorted by several males toward a small cabin near my house. The house wasn't big. I'd planned to buy it for a flower bed, but she ended up purchasing it instead. Luna spotted me, glanced at Kellen trailing behind, then greeted me with a smile. "Sis, the alpha approved my joining the werewolf pack. Now we can be together every day." where are your mates? Her showing up at this critical moment made me uneasy. My little sister had always been a troublemaker with malicious tendencies. I got tired of their nagging, so I dissolved the mating bonds. 3. Her expression darkened momentarily at the mention of those males, but she quickly regained her composure. I'm still young, she said breezily. I'm sure I'll find a mate I truly fancy among the wolf clan. Oh, didn't you like those males before? I leaned against my doorframe, arms crossed over my chest, studying her discreetly. Over a year had passed since the choosing day. Her body had begun showing signs of pain and swelling, her feminine traits still developing, becoming hypersensitive. The slightest touch from a male became unbearable, let alone that fierce tiger beast she'd mentioned last time. She paled as if remembering something, yet forced a defiant tone. I did fancy them before, but I've grown bored. With this figure, I attract males wherever I go. Why would I care about second-hand toys? I watched her stubborn denial, only for her gaze to shift to the male behind me. Her probing tone carried thinly veiled curiosity. Sister, why are you still with this male? What could possibly make him worthy of your affection? Before I could respond, the male who'd escorted her interjected, Kellen's the chieftain's youngest son, just came of age yesterday. The moment he spoke, both my sister and I turned our attention to Kellen. No wonder Kellen reacted so intensely yesterday. He'd just reached maturity. Luna's eyes changed when she noticed the 4 beast marks on Kellen's wrist. She glanced at me again, looking as if she'd received some shock, but quickly changed the subject. Sister, she asked with concern, your skin has improved so much lately, and your complexion is glowing. I'm truly happy for you. How did you manage it? Carnivorous beastmen eat meat year-round. The males Luna follows are nearly all meat-eaters, and that diet would naturally be unbearable. But I'm different. I have thousands of acres of vegetables, with new dishes every day. My beast servants are well-trained too. As long as I stay home and don't wander out, I avoid all wind and sun exposure. Yet she's trailed by a pack of rogue beastmen, dangerous outcasts no tribe would accept, constantly evading forced mating attempts from these drifters. She likely has no choice but to roam under the harsh elements. I smiled modestly and said, maybe I just got lucky with good genes. How's that possible? We're twins. Why don't mine look as good as yours? Luna shot me a slightly jealous look, convinced I was holding out on some beauty secret. Glancing at Kellen, I said casually, or maybe my Kellen just has exceptional skills. The next second, both of them blushed. Luna kept glancing between Kellen and me. Sis, I need to go tidy up my new place. I'll head back first. Unable to bear it any longer, she slunk away. Right after she left, I went to check on my farm and reinforced the security system. On her 3rd day with the wolf pack, Luna sought out the Alpha's eldest son. After spending a night together outside the camp, the Alpha had no choice but to bring them to the Truth Stone to formalize their mating bond. On their bonding day, I gifted my sister a necklace, but she had the audacity to demand I hand Kellen over to her. I cut her off mid-sentence. In your dreams, sis, Kellen told me he loves my curves. Backed by the chieftain's eldest son, Luna finally showed her true colors. I no longer wanted to pretend with her either. Since childhood, I've always protected you and put you first in everything, but I've come to realize you're like a bottomless pit, slowly draining my affection for you. Let me warn you, those who crave everything often end up with nothing. Luna remained unfazed. Resources are scarce in the beast world. This past year taught me everything must be fought for, and frankly, I quite enjoy stealing my sister's man. With that, Luna flashed a triumphant smile and walked away hand in hand with Jax, the chieftain's son, amid cheers and blessings from the beast folk crowd. Ever since our last falling out, I've been worried Luna might do something drastic. Little did I expect the news that she was pregnant. Though the clan leader never thought much of this female, pregnant women receive special care in our tribe. Luna's face has noticeably rounded out these days. Everyone assumes Luna would change after becoming Jax's mate, but I have my doubts. One day when Kellen went out, Luna pretended to sunbathe while secretly tailing him, unaware that I was following her too. I wanted to see what tricks she had up her sleeve. As Kellen reached a forest and began gathering the fruits I'd asked him to bring home, Luna suddenly appeared, wrapping her arms around his waist and pressing her prized curves against him. Kellen instinctively flung her to the ground like trash. Luna whimpered in pain, shooting Kellen a wounded look. Kellen, she pouted, that hurt. You knew it was me, Kellen. His icy gaze rested upon her. Luna nodded. then began removing her furs right before him. Kellen closed his eyes and turned to leave, when her voice stopped him. Look at me, Brother Kellen, I truly adore you. I came to the Wolf Clan just to see you. Last time, I only provoked you because I was jealous seeing you with my sister. Luna's sickening words hung in the air. Kellen turned pale, realizing Irene's sister harbored such feelings. How could he possibly explain this to Irene when he got back? Enough, I only love Irene. I'd never look at another woman, Kellen snapped, turning to leave when Luna's shriek stopped him in his tracks. Ah, Kellen, it hurts so bad. I'm carrying your brother's child. Please, help me. Luna pulled out all the stops with her desperate act. In the end, Kellen couldn't abandon her, not when she was Irene's sister. The thought of Irene grieving kept him from leaving Luna to her fate. He stepped forward, only for Luna to clumsily throw herself at him like a clumsy goose. From a distance, the sight of a female pouncing on a male looked utterly indecent. Kellen's eyes blazed with fury at Luna's action. He shoved her away violently, sending her crashing belly first onto the ground. Blood immediately gushed from her thigh. She never expected this outcome. Any other male in the beast world would have eagerly taken her when she showed such initiative. A pained cry escaped her lips, too weak to endure. She blacked out the moment her eyelids fluttered shut. Kellen recoiled in disgust at the sight of the stark-naked female. Staggering backward before doubling over to vomit violently, Luna was escorted back by the beast servant-eyed. Hired, she was completely unclothed during the return, with fresh blood still streaming down her thighs. The shaman confirmed her unique physique had always made conception difficult. This rare pregnancy ended in miscarriage, permanently destroying her fertility. I expected Jax to be devastated upon hearing about Luna's miscarriage, but he just stood there calmly staring at the figure on the bed. When Luna woke up, I was clutching Kellen's arm and sobbing hysterically by her bedside, putting on a guilt-ridden performance. Oh sister, how could you be so careless, with your voluptuous figure wandering about alone? Those feral beasts must have targeted you. The shaman says you'll likely never bear children again. This is all my fault for not protecting you better. Luna stared at Kellen and me in shock, only to discover she couldn't speak. Just muffled whimpers escaped her throat. The sheer hatred in her eyes as she glared at us was unmistakable. Mid-performance, I suddenly felt nauseous. Whether from Luna's condition or my own disgust, I couldn't tell. Kellen carried me to the shaman, who took my pulse and announced I was already with child. The shaman warned, the fetus is still delicate, you must stay home and rest properly. Thank you, shaman. Luna watched as Kellen carried me into the night, her eyes burning with resentment and hatred. After the crowd left, Jax suddenly pinned Luna down, gripping her throat with disgust. Luna, those rogue beasts were right, you're nothing but a slut, trying to seduce my brother. Dream on. He and Irene are deeply in love. With that, he pulled out a sharp fishbone and thrust it into Luna's chest. Her chest was already 10 times more sensitive to pain than other parts of her body. As the long bone pierced deep, she nearly lost half her life from the agony, collapsing to her knees in desperate pleas for mercy. Yet the long, torturous night had only just begun, for months later, thanks to the breeding farm I established, every werewolf in the pack survived the harsh winter. The alpha leader personally brought me to the ceremonial platform to publicly bestow an honorary title upon me. I ascended the platform with my swollen belly. Midway through the ceremony, a deranged female suddenly charged onto the platform. Before she could even touch my robe, a group of male warriors dragged her away, and the furious males swiftly took her into custody. With just a fleeting glance toward the distance, I stood upon the beast altar, clasping Kellen's hand as I made my vow to the wolfkin. Irene, hereby swear upon my soul, witnessed by the mountains and rivers of the beast realm, I shall become the guardian of the wolfkin's peace, sharing the wisdom of my survival. Should disaster strike, my courage shall bring hope to the fearful. Even when my body returns to the soil of this realm, my soul shall forever watch over this beloved homeland of the wolfkin. May the wolfkin prosper, may the beast realm endure. Completed. Story 2. When the apocalypse broke out, it was thanks to my special ability that my fiancé and father were able to achieve great power in the apocalypse, but they hated me and were afraid of me. During the zombie outbreak, they removed my crystal core and pushed me into the crowd of zombies. This is the retribution you deserve. The innocent-looking girl who got my crystal core stepped on my bones and saved the world. There were tears in the corners of her eyes as she showed pity for all living beings, although she took away my opportunity. Now that the crystal core has returned to its rightful owner, I don't hate her anymore. She became the savior respected by thousands of people, but I became food for the zombies and was brutally torn apart. In despair, I detonated my remaining ability and perished together with her. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment when I was fighting with the innocent-looking girl for the crystal core. She was cruel and seriously injured herself, pretending to be overpowered and robbed by me. Sister, I really can't compete with you, but it's not certain who will get the treasure in the end. I sneered. I grabbed her hair and smashed her forehead against the ground. I crushed her arm and disabled her legs. You like to play the victim, don't you? I'll show you what real misery is. 1. I was poisoned by my fiancé and father. They tied me up, forcefully dug out the crystal core from my body, and pushed me into the zombie horde. Alice, this is the retribution you deserve. The tearing pain of the zombie's teeth piercing my skin agitated every nerve ending of mine. As the intense pain swept over me, through my blurry vision, I saw Stella hiding behind my fiancé. In her eyes as she looked at me, there was an overflow of complacency and malice. She held the bloody crystal core that had just been dug out of my body. Enduring the great pain, I exhausted the last bit of my ability, detonated the crystal core, and perished together with them. Go to hell. When I opened my eyes again, I was stunned for a moment. In front of me was a bloody corpse, the black blood of the zombies splattered all over the corridor. I tightly gripped a baseball bat in my hand, and the force of my grip was so strong that the skin between my thumb and index finger split open. This action, it seemed that I had just had a fight with it. What is this thing? Stella's voice came from beside me. I suddenly looked up and found Stella standing beside me. I didn't know when she had come. She dug out a crystal core from the blood and flesh. Under the sunlight, the crystal core sparkled like a brilliant jewel. My eyes shrank in shock. It was the evolved crystal core of the zombie king in her hand. And it was also Stella's young face. Sister, Stella spoke to me with a smile, as if the malice she showed before was just an illusion. This thing seems dangerous, since you've just been in a fight. Sister, I'll keep it for you. These were the same words as in my previous life. I finally realized I was reborn. I had returned to the day when the zombies first broke out. On that day, in the university corridor, it was just me and her. I fought at the risk of being infected by the zombies, while she stood aside safely in her fluttering white dress. After I finally knocked down the zombie, she suddenly stepped forward to grab the crystal core in the zombie's body. Like me, she realized the opportunity hidden in the mysterious crystal born from the zombie, so she tried to steal my spoils. I sneered. She was still so greedy and arrogant. Aren't you willing? Her eyes sank slightly. Suddenly, there was a rush of footsteps and shouts from the end of the corridor. Alice, Stella, are you both okay? It was the voice of our classmates who had come to find us. Sister, I really can't compete with you, but it's not certain who will get the treasure in the end. After saying this, Stella suddenly took action. I saw her slap herself, and then she smashed her arm hard against the railing. Bang! Her arm broke, and her action was vicious. When the group of people rushed over from the corner of the corridor, she sat on the ground delicately. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. Sister, I found this thing. I injured my arm in order to kill this monster. Why are you stealing my spoils? I'm gentle by nature, but this time, even if you hit me, I won't give my things to you, because it's mine, too. Ching ching, what's going on? Among the crowd, my fiancé Carter stepped forward. His gaze passed over me and landed quietly on Stella's pitiful little face. I sneered. Do you feel sorry for her like this? It's far from enough. After watching Stella's performance, I lazily shook the black blood of the baseball bat off my hand. Then, under the terrified gazes of the crowd, I heavily smashed the baseball bat in my hand onto the arm of hers that was holding the crystal core. Ah, what are you doing? She let out a shrill scream, not expecting me to do such a thing. Bead-sized sweat drops fell, and the veins in her neck bulged due to the pain, and her face was distorted. There was no trace of her being pitiful anymore. Since you don't cherish your own body and are so cruel to yourself, as your enemy, I naturally can't be outdone. I took the initiative and said, don't come over. She was just bitten by a zombie. Sooner or later, she will be infected and turn into a new zombie. Before she turns into a zombie, I'll knock her out first. Someone in the crowd asked weakly, aren't you supposed to knock her out? Why are you hitting her arm, remembering the pain of the zombies biting my body with their stinky teeth before I died in my previous life? I said calmly. I was scared, and my hand shook, so I missed. After saying that, I swung the bat viciously again, the baseball bat cut through the air, and all that could be seen was its afterimage in the air as it came crashing down. Her leg took the blow, I said coldly. Ah, I missed again. It's still not enough, the anger in my heart hasn't been quelled yet. There was fear in her eyes, her familiar features reminded me of the vicious and complacent look in her eyes before I died. My target landed on the only surviving part of her. I raised the stick in my hand. What are you standing there for? Save me. I wasn't bitten by a zombie. Carter, save me. Sensing my intention for the next moment, Stella was so scared that her hair stood on end, and her eyes were wide with terror. She roared like a madman, and in a confounded state, she slowly dragged one leg and crawled away. The classmates who were stunned by my ferocity finally came to their senses. Ching-ching, I think. I swept my eyes over Carter, and the leg he had just taken a step with stopped. What kind of eyes were these, tempered by death and the intention to kill, like a devil crawling out of hell? He was terrified and didn't dare to come any closer. These students who had never stepped into society, how could they be a match for someone like me who had struggled in the apocalypse? Don't come over, don't. Stella crawled forward in fear, trying to get away from the devil that I was. But she couldn't even escape from my shadow. I squatted down and pried her fingers apart one by one, right in front of her. I took back the crystal core. In my previous life when I wasn't reborn, she couldn't even steal the crystal core. Now that I had a second chance at life, how could she take my things away from me? I leaned close to her ear and whispered, you like to play the victim, don't you? I'll show you what real misery is. The tears she had forced out with her false show of emotion finally became real. They rolled down from the corners of her eyes. I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Spare me. I grabbed her hair. The intense pain that had agitated every nerve when I was pushed into the crowd of zombies and bitten in my previous life still seemed to be lingering. Anger welled up in my heart. I pulled her hair and smashed her head against the ground. In an instant, there was blood all over. Her face turned pale, and she lay on the ground, on the verge of death. Amid her suddenly miserable cries, I laughed maniacally. Do you understand? This is what real misery is. You need someone to teach you how to pretend to be pitiful. You, this white lotus, might as well be reborn. Ha ha ha. 3. Enough. My hand holding the baseball bat was grabbed by Carter. There was fear hidden in his eyes, and he couldn't bear to see Stella get hurt. The situation is chaotic now. This isn't the time for you to vent your personal grudges. Besides, she is your sister after all. Boom. The sound of the baseball bat cutting through the air hit the wall beside his face. The wall plaster cracked, forming a web-like pattern. I raised my eyes and looked at him sideways, my gaze cold. That night, in the empty lecture hall, the two of you had a great time, didn't you? His expression froze. I sneered. Did you think you had covered up your stupid deeds? Well, I have no feelings for you, and you have no affection for me either. In the end, our marriage was just a union of interests. What you do in private is your business. Even if you fool around with my father's illegitimate daughter, I don't care about your affairs. But I slowly wiped the blood on the baseball bat onto his clean clothes. He looked at me, and there was deep resentment in his eyes. But fearing my brutality, he obediently stood there and served as my rag. You shouldn't have set your sights on my things. I curled my lips. You're so despicable. Do you think you deserve to be beaten? For, in the end, I leisurely turned around and tossed the crystal core up and down in my hand. I left calmly. The zombies roared. The place I was going was where the zombies were gathered. No one tried to stop me. Carter looked at me with hatred, but the hatred hidden in my lowered eyes was no less than his. I will never forget that in my previous life, it was him and Stella who pushed me into the zombie horde and killed me. He hated my existence because it blocked his pursuit of true love, but he didn't have the courage to resist his family. Under Stella's deliberate guidance, his feelings turned into full-fledged hatred for me. In my previous life, in order to get Stella recognized by Alice's family, he endured humiliation and approached me with false pretenses. He saw me as an obstacle in Stella's path of growth and wanted to get rid of me. I saw everything. Since the marriage with the Yu family was beneficial for me to gain more power in Alice's family, I turned a blind eye to their actions, treating them as petty squabbles. I've always been tolerant of things that had utilitarian value. After all, they were all stepping stones for my future. I quietly collected evidence, waiting for that day to come, but who would have thought that the apocalypse suddenly arrived and disrupted my plans? 5. In my previous life, I fought bravely and single-handedly defeated the zombies. I discovered the existence of the crystal core. Stella was greedy and wanted to take it for herself. The sudden change made me lose my patience. I broke her arm with a blow of the bat to knock some sense into her. After that, I joined the group of people, but because there were so many people gathered together, we became the target of the zombie horde. The smell of human flesh attracted more danger. When we were trapped in the storage room, only the three of us were left. Stella was disabled and couldn't help. Carter was unconscious with a high fever. I didn't want to take either of these two useless people with me, but I had no choice. Although Carter's family wasn't as powerful as Alice's family, they could still be useful in times of crisis. As long as he was alive, someone would come to rescue him. Stella was like the dirty chewing gum stuck to the sole of my shoe. She followed Carter closely and managed to survive until the end. I looked at the door that was shaking from being battered, and then at the crystal core shining faintly in my hand. Holding it in my hand, I could almost feel the surging power. My eyes darkened. I swallowed the mysterious crystal. Then, I obtained the ability to control the zombies. 6. I left the group of people and took the crystal core. I felt the familiar power circulating in my body. I clenched my fists and smiled. In this life, without me saving you, I hope you can still manage to survive. This was my sincere wish. They were still useful to me. I didn't have time to waste on that group of people. There were more important things waiting for me to do. Among the crowd of zombies, I walked towards the teaching building as if there was no one else around. I was going to save someone, the president of the student union, Violet. However, I didn't show up immediately. Instead, I stood outside quietly. I observed this powerful woman who had single-handedly established a base during the chaos of the apocalypse and achieved a dominant position. 7. In my previous life, when the apocalypse came, Violet, relying on the prestige she had accumulated in the student union, selected those who were willing to listen to her. She led the remaining classmates and managed to lead everyone to survive the most chaotic first week, with all of them alive before the first batch of rescue arrived. These people later became her solid support, the foundation of her struggle in the apocalypse. She was an outstanding leader. She started from scratch and established the Dawn base, which stood proudly in this chaotic land. Unfortunately, she refused the recruitment of Alice's family. I had to follow my father's order and eliminate her. A potential threat to Alice's family. She was surrounded by zombies, and all her achievements in the past were destroyed. I walked through the sea of zombies, looking at her on the verge of death with regret. I said, "Violet, what a pity. I thought we could be friends, but you refused the invitation of Alice's family." She coughed up a mouthful of blood and smiled. The concept of friends, for you, can be more accurately described as something that brings benefits. Cough. Cough. You asked me to lead the Dawn base. Was it your father or yourself that I was supposed to submit to? Her eyes were sharp, as if she could see through everything. My gaze was heavy as I coldly met her eyes. The corners of her lips curled into a sneer. The Dawn base I established was to seek the light for humanity in the apocalypse. It was never a pawn for the power struggle within Alice's family. But I made a mistake. This was the path I chose according to my will, and I have no regrets about my ending. In my previous life, I killed her and ensured that she was left with a whole body, preventing her from becoming food for the zombies. And in this life, cold sweat dripped from Violet's forehead. She was pinned against the corner, facing a gaping, bloody maw. A foul stench hit her face. The monster's teeth were caught on the broomstick, and tiny cracks began to spread. Her only weapon was on the verge of being destroyed. Her pupils shrank sharply, gritting her teeth. She was about to sacrifice her arm to save herself when, bang, the monster's brain exploded like a balloon right in front of her. With a stunned expression, she watched as the zombie's body fell backward, revealing my figure. The orange-yellow sunset bathed me. I raised my hand and greeted her friendly. "Long time no see, Violet. How are you?" I squinted at her, looking at her disheveled and still young appearance. "In this life, I believe we will definitely become excellent partners, the perfect pair of friends." 8. The Alice family already held immense power and influence, coupled with the fact that I obtained the Zombie King's crystal core, which allowed me to control low-level zombies, and my memories from the previous life. I quickly led the family to gain a firm foothold when the world fell into chaos and panic. Just like in the previous life, I established a survivor base with the Alice family at its power core. A large number of fugitives poured in, and various disputes frequently arose. As the person in charge, I should have been the busiest one, but at this moment, I was lounging with my legs propped up, munching on snacks and flipping through a leisurely book, completely relaxed. The door opened, and Violet, with two huge dark circles under her eyes, entered with a stack of documents. "I've sorted these out, you just need to sign and stamp them." I casually picked out several documents to review and nodded in satisfaction. "The student council president is indeed amazing. Your work efficiency is really high. You truly live up to being the friend I recognize." Violet's lips twitched. "It's truly an honor to be Miss Alice's friend. If possible, I'd like someone else to share this honor." After a few days of getting along, she was already able to joke with me. I wagged my finger, rejecting her suggestion. "Have faith in your own abilities." Her face immediately fell. I encouraged her. "Don't worry, I won't let you work in vain. Since you're helping me, I have a gift for you too. As for what it is exactly, it's a secret for now." I looked at her with a smile. She reluctantly mustered a smile. "Miss Alice, there's another thing I must tell you." Violet's expression turned serious as she handed me a file. "Although this may invade your privacy, I must keep a close eye on and be wary of anything that threatens the foundation of the base's survival." I opened it, and right in the center of the document was a photo. In the photo, Stella smiled gently, like a holy goddess. Radiating a white light, fresh granulation tissue was sprouting from the wound of the injured person under her palm. My fiancé, Carter, stood beside her, his eyes filled with love. It was obvious to anyone that their relationship was far from ordinary. I heard that when the apocalypse broke out, Miss Alice had a conflict with Ms. Stella. Now, Stella has awakened a rare healing ability. She healed the injuries you inflicted on her. Relying on her ability, she has won the support and love of many people. Mr. Carter has also awakened a powerful lightning ability. He formed his own elite team and became a hero of the base. Miss Alice, you've been comfortably staying in the rear, leaving all the decisions to me. I'm naturally extremely grateful for your trust, but aren't you worried about a backlash from the people below? Violet's words were extremely straightforward, lacking any hint of deference. I wasn't angry. As I always say, I'm very tolerant of anything that has utilitarian value. I smiled and explained, "Violet, I think you've misunderstood something. If someone steals the stone under your feet, would you consider it a betrayal? What I truly want is far more than just a small base. My ambition goes beyond that." 9. At the banquet, the crystal chandeliers sparkled brightly. Wearing an elegant and luxurious gown, I descended the spiral staircase and entered the banquet hall. Even in the apocalypse, the upper class always finds a way to maintain their noble elegance. I swirled the red wine in my glass and smiled. With a shortage of supplies, countless people were suffering, some even selling their bodies and consciences just to get a piece of bread. Yet, in the core safe zone of the base, just 100 miles away, some people were living such a luxurious life. I turned my head and saw the hidden disgust in Violet's eyes. Coming from a poor family, she must be unaccustomed to such scenes. I patted her shoulder. "Come on, although this is nominally the base naming banquet, it also symbolizes the reshuffling of the base's power. The competition among various forces has come to a temporary end. After a few months of the apocalypse, things have finally settled down. As a great contributor, you should relax and stop looking so glum." Violet pursed her lips. "But your father refused to attend the banquet." I wasn't surprised. He's always been domineering. One day, when he sees his daughter surpass him, he'll naturally be unwilling to accept it. But the situation is already set. He can't fight against me. Just thinking of the old man's furious face, I smiled wickedly. Things without value have no reason to exist. That's what he taught me. Now he's losing his power, gradually becoming useless and heading towards destruction. "Father, in the previous life, you were afraid of my strength and feared that I would seize the base you built. So you secretly set a trap for me and killed me at the cost of my life. You taught me not to trust anyone in this life. Let me repay this favor." 10. At the banquet, as expected, I saw my fiancé Carter and my father's illegitimate daughter, Stella. Stella was surrounded by a crowd, shining like the moon among the stars, enjoying everyone's flattery. Carter stood by her side like a knight protecting a princess. When she caught a glimpse of me, fear and resentment flashed in her eyes, but she quickly put on a delicate expression. She called out timidly, "Sister." Suddenly, all eyes were on me. Violet whispered in my ear, "Miss Stella is respected as a saint by her supporters, relying on the Yu family's influence. She has a high reputation in the base. Your father has also been spending a lot of time with her recently. It seems he intends to make her the face of the base." I understood immediately, so my father couldn't hold back anymore and had started to act. Before I could react, Stella had already started her tearful act. Sister, you must never have thought I'd be able to stand here in one piece, right? Tears streamed down her face, but she wore a determined smile back. Then, you stole the crystal core of the zombie king that I killed, obtained the ability to control low-level zombies, and abandoned me and everyone else. But now I have a healing ability, my broken limbs have been restored, Brother Carter has also awakened a powerful lightning ability, I survived and can save more people. I forgive you, sister, let's make peace and work together for the future of humanity. Her words earned her the respect and admiration of those around her. Miss Stella truly deserves to be called a saint, her magnanimity is admirable, but that other one, TSK, stealing treasures and breaking her sister's limbs, so cruel. If Miss Stella had gotten the Zombie King's crystal core, the base would surely be a different place. 11. I held out my hand, and Violet handed me the baseball bat, the very same one I used before. Then, with a smile still on my face, I slowly approached Stella, who looked terrified. Carter, the ever-loyal knight, stepped forward, frowning at me in disgust. Alice, what are you going to do now? Making a scene in front of all these guests, I raised an eyebrow and looked at him mockingly. So, you've finally stopped pretending and calling me Ching Ching. With power, you've grown bold enough to talk back to me. When I broke Stella's leg, you were too scared to even breathe, I sneered, hitting his sore spot and mocking his cowardice. Flashed in Carter's eyes, sparks of electricity danced at his fingertips as he prepared to attack. I stood calmly in front of him, fearless in the face of his lightning strike. In the end, all the electricity rebounded onto him, and he collapsed to the ground. Violet used her mental ability to disrupt Carter's attack. She stepped forward and said calmly, Mister, the person you're trying to attack is the greatest contributor to the establishment of the human survivor base. It's thanks to Miss Alice's ability that there are no zombies within 100 miles of the base. Please show basic respect for the savior of humanity. I bent down and whispered in Carter's ear, Carter, do you know why I only attacked Stella and didn't touch you back then? Violet controlled his body, leaving him unable to move. He could only stare at me in horror with wide eyes. I shook my head. You're still so stupid. I didn't touch you because you were still useful to me. The Alice family needed the U family's support to stabilize the situation. But now that goal has been achieved, and my father, that sly old fox, has almost completely absorbed and dismantled your remaining strength. Although the lightning ability is precious, there are plenty of powerful people. The only value you have left now is to serve as an example. The early bird gets shot. Amid my solemn sigh, I raised the bat in my hand. Blood spilled, staining the carpet red, and a series of screams filled the hall. I smiled and walked towards Stella. This time, no one tried to stop me. Her face was deathly pale, and her body trembled. Tears welled up in her eyes, making her look extremely pitiful. I gently wiped away her tears with my finger. The blood on my fingertip smeared across her face, adding a touch of macabre color. She looked at me with the same fear as if I were a ghost. Don't worry, your ability is very useful. I'll make sure to fully exploit your potential. I won't waste it. But if this is all you've got, you'd better be careful. Be careful not to fall out of favor with Father. My eyes were pitch black, like swirling vortices, captivating and terrifying. You were chosen by Father to enter this game. If you don't grow quickly, I pointed to the motionless figure on the ground, this will be your fate. Think carefully. Amid the chaos, I left those meaningful words and climbed to the high platform of the banquet hall. Violet quickly restored order and dragged the body away. I picked up the microphone, revealed the theme of today's banquet, and officially named the base, the Dawn Base. Violet, who was still busy, froze for a moment, as if she had a premonition. She looked up and met my gaze. On the stage, under the dazzling lights, I was adorned with precious jewels, and a few drops of blood splattered on my clothes added a touch of a bloodthirsty aura. Looking at her stunned expression, I enunciated clearly, the Dawn Base, a lighthouse of hope in the apocalypse, providing shelter for countless survivors. We seek the light for humanity in this apocalypse and pave the way for the future of mankind. I believe it will definitely live up to my expectations. Amidst the applause, I walked over to her and said, the time has come, let's start the plan. Violet stiffened and gave me a deep look. 12. The banquet ultimately didn't end smoothly. The zombies suddenly rioted and attacked the Dawn Base, causing significant losses. My father, the true power behind the Dawn base, emerged during the riot after months of silence. With a stern expression, he issued an order to hunt me down. Alice has been acting brutally and inhumanely, without the base's permission. She used her ability, causing a large number of zombies to gather, severely damaging the base's facilities and resulting in hundreds of casualties. She has now been officially listed as the base's most wanted criminal. The base will provide necessary support and resources to capture her. Those who can provide accurate information or capture her will be handsomely rewarded. In the video, my father's words were merciless, as if I were a sworn enemy. My deputy, Violet, faced with the olive branch extended by my father, ultimately stood behind him, silent like a loyal guard. Stella, no, this time I should call her Naomi. After I fled the base, my father quickly held a celebration banquet for her and acknowledged her existence. Charles still only had one daughter, but it was no longer me. My father had long harbored the intention to kill me, seeing me as a threat to his position. He even went as far as to cooperate with the Zombie King, triggering a zombie horde to frame me and try to get rid of me. The zombie horde that killed me in the previous life, which occurred just a few months into the apocalypse, played out decades earlier this time, but I was already fully prepared. Everything was going according to my plan. 13. The Zombie King could also level up, but it was extremely difficult. Only by absorbing and transforming zombies of the same level could it become stronger. This was why the Zombie King was willing to cooperate with my father. It reached an agreement with my father, coveting the Zombie King's crystal core in my body. They triggered the zombie horde to make me unwelcome in the human base. They wanted to kill me when I was at my weakest. Unfortunately, my father was too hasty. In the early days of the apocalypse, both ability users and zombies were like newborn babies. Despite their extraordinary abilities, in the short term, human firearms still held the upper hand. Ominous black birds circled overhead. Hordes of zombies surrounded the tall building where I was, a dark mass blocking all exits. I had nowhere to run. I sat calmly on the large sofa, quietly observing the desolate cityscape outside the broken French windows. You're a remarkable human, miss. It took us a whole month to corner you. A figure with rotting flesh appeared behind me. It was clearly more advanced than ordinary zombies, able to speak human language. I looked at the gray sky and asked it, "Do you know why it took a month?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're about to die. Your Zombie King crystal core will be mine." Bang! From a distant high-rise building, a sniper rifle bullet pierced through the French window and hit its head. The special-made bullet exploded its brain. The body slumped to the ground. I shook my head. A bit of intelligence, but not much. You set your sights on my Zombie King crystal core, but I've been eyeing yours too. I'm not, as you thought, fighting alone. I tore out the bright crystal from its body with my bare hands and smiled. I have someone helping me from behind. 1 month was enough for Violet to gain a firm foothold in the chaotic situation and earn my father's trust. In 1 month, the helpless Alice was supposed to be killed by the Zombie King, and in her place, a more powerful ruler of zombies would be born. 14. In my previous life, I was betrayed by those close to me. My father was wary of my threat, my fiancé loathed my existence, and my father's illegitimate daughter coveted my position. Although I was cautious everywhere, I couldn't defend against the unpredictable schemes and backstabbing. Compared to staying in the seemingly safe human base and dealing with those people hypocritically, the seemingly dangerous hordes of zombies were the real place suitable for my growth. It was like breeding venomous insects. The strong usually became even stronger, and in the end, a terrifying zombie emperor would be born. I used the chaos to hide my whereabouts, pretended to be dead, and dispelled my father's vigilance, relying on the information from the human side and my memories of the previous life. I devoured and eliminated more zombie kings, secretly enhancing my strength. In the farthest place away from the human base, I trained high-level zombies that obeyed me and built my own forces. I grew rapidly while watching the still, confused and disorderly apocalyptic world with cold eyes, just waiting for the right moment to act. 15. In the following 3 years, the zombies became stronger and stronger. Turbid crystals were found in the bodies of some high-level zombies. Ability users could use these crystals to improve their cultivation, barely achieving a balance with the zombies. Countless survivor bases were established and then perished. After 3 years of upheaval, a relatively stable situation was finally formed. With the Dawn base at the forefront, they maintained a complex situation of both competition and mutual assistance. The annual large scale conference aimed to resolve the internal contradictions among humans, and the main debate at this year's conference revolved around the recent strange behavior of the zombies. I don't have time to talk about other things with you now. My wife and children are at home, waiting for me to save them. It was so hard to get the news out. And what's your attitude? Are you going to turn a blind eye, Captain Daniel? I know your base is currently surrounded by zombies and in a critical situation, but my Sunlight base is also surrounded. The base hasn't received supplies for a month. Haste makes waste, which is why we're gathered here to figure out the problem. Figure out. How long has it been? Are your hearts made of stone? Still dawdling? Since none of you are willing to offend anyone, I'll be blunt today and speak frankly. A burly bald man slammed the table and stood up, directly questioning the imposing middle-aged man sitting in the central position of the conference. So why is it that all our bases are surrounded by zombie hordes, but only your Dawn base is safe and sound? What's your relationship with the Zombie King? As soon as these words were spoken, the entire room fell silent. Everyone's eyes turned to the middle-aged man, putting invisible pressure on him. The middle-aged man calmly pushed his glasses, seemingly unaffected at all. The reason for this matter, of course, it's because he's my father. I lazily leaned against the door of the conference room, suddenly making my presence known. Many of the people present were powerful individuals who had gone through countless battles. They immediately recognized that the people following me were unusual. Their stiff movements and pale skin were giveaway signs. Someone exclaimed, "They're high-level zombies. This woman is the zombie queen." I squinted at my father, whose expression changed slightly in the central seat, and raised my hand to greet him. "Long time no see, father. How have you been recently?" His calm face finally showed cracks when he saw me. He gritted his teeth and said, "You're not dead." I smiled and said, "That's right. Not only am I not dead, but I also have a gift for you, father." The annual Alliance conference invites all survivor bases to participate, but I've waited for 3 years, and no one has invited the zombie base I established. It's really disappointing, but it doesn't matter. Here I am, to show my sincerity. I'd like to invite you to visit my base for a day. I'll personally introduce the unique features of our base to you. There was a cold darkness in my narrowed eyes. I believe you, father, are a reasonable man and won't reject your daughter's kind offer. You must understand the consequences of refusing me. 16. My father's face was gloomy, fully armed and protected by many elites. He came deep into my base. Naomi's healing ability was so powerful that she could eliminate the zombie virus in the initial stage of infection and prevent people from turning into zombies, so he brought her along. The helicopter that had just dropped them took off. Then, a huge explosion occurred, like a kite on fire. It plunged straight into the dead urban jungle, igniting the fuse of the Great War. My father's face changed dramatically. Looking at me on the large display screen of the high-rise building, he demanded sharply, "Rebellious daughter, do you really want to kill your father?" I took the black tea prepared by the high-level zombie, took a sip, and frowned. It really wasn't as good as the tea made by humans. I raised my eyes and said casually, "How could that be? It's just that we haven't seen each other for years, and I want to have a good talk with you and express my gratitude for your cultivation. But your guard makes me sad. Father, you brought too many irrelevant outsiders, so I'm just helping you get rid of them." Looking at my father's angry face on the monitor, I chuckled. "Don't even think about escaping. I've set up numerous traps. You have only 2 choices now, either die or come and find me. I'll be at the top floor of the tallest building in the central area of City C. I'll be waiting for you there, father." 17. It seems that I've never seen my father smile, either in my previous life or this one. He always had a stern expression. Whenever I did something stupid, he would whip my palm with a ruler and make me kneel in the rain, not allowing me to enter the house. I was both afraid of and respectful to him. He taught me how to make the best use of everything and how to squeeze the last value out of my enemies in the best way. At the end of my previous life, he also taught me how sinister people could be and that I should never trust anyone. I didn't dare to disobey his orders, yet, despite my fear of his authority, I was incredibly bold as a child. Knowing that he disliked dirty and weak things, I still secretly raised a stray curly-haired puppy behind his back. When the truth was finally revealed, I looked at the dead puppy at his feet and heard him say, "This kind of dirty thing isn't welcome in our home. It's weak and useless." staying with such a thing will only make your heart soft and full of flaws. His tall shadow shrouded me. Since you brought this thing in, you can throw it out. I built a small grave for the puppy. The next day, my father brought back a girl of my age. This is Stella. She's your sister. I looked up into my father's stern eyes and knew that I had disappointed him again. If things continued like this, the small grave under the tree would be my final destination. I attacked Stella fiercely, and this ferocity impressed my father. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a hint of admiration in his eyes. He was breeding venomous insects, cultivating his outstanding air, and Stella was just a pawn in his hand. We were all just puppets in his hands, fighting and struggling in his shadow. But now, the puppet had broken free from its strings, picked up a weapon, and aimed it at the puppeteer. The door was finally opened. I watched as he burst into the room covered in blood, with Naomi supporting him and using her ability to treat his wounds. All his subordinates had died on the way, and only the two of them reached the end. His eyes, fixed on me, were filled with anger, and his expression overlapped with the one in my memory, gloomy and depressive. I suddenly said, "Father, I don't think I've ever seen you smile. Can you smile for me?" 18. Unfortunately, in the end, I never saw a kind expression on his face. Seeing me sitting leisurely in the chair, he raged like a toothless tiger, trying to hide his panic with his useless anger. He shouted angrily, "What's your attitude? I raised you with great effort, but you can't even show basic filial piety, torturing your father like this. Do you have any conscience left? You've absorbed the zombie king's crystal core. Has your heart become as cruel as a zombie's? What do you want to do to the Dawn base and your father?" His scolding suddenly stopped. He looked at Naomi, who was supporting him, in disbelief. Naomi took a few steps back, creating some distance between them, and revealed the bloody dagger in her hand. Her eyes showed no sign of obedience or loyalty towards him. She was expressionless, as if she didn't care at all about having killed her father with her own hands. His eyes widened in shock. "How dare you, father? Don't trust anyone. You should be wary even of the people closest to you. Didn't you teach me that?" I tilted my head. Naomi wiped her hands and promptly made tea for me. My father was so enraged that his eyes almost popped out, and finally, he fell to the ground. 19. In my previous life, I couldn't figure out why my father wanted to kill me. Although I did pose a threat to his position, I was the daughter he had cultivated with his own hands. Even a tiger wouldn't eat its cubs, so how could he bring himself to do it? It wasn't until Naomi defected to me that I learned that my father had damaged his body due to his wild behavior when he was young and had long lost his ability to have children. Both Naomi and I were just adopted daughters he had found, his future cultivation targets. There were many more like Naomi, but they all perished in the quiet internal struggles. I was the only one being cultivated openly. I wasn't his biological daughter. Without the false veil of family affection, he and I were sworn enemies with a blood feud. When Naomi defected to me, she was extremely respectful on the communication device video. "Thank you, sister, for your guidance. You didn't hold my past mistakes against me, and I will definitely repay your kindness with my actions." My decisive actions when the zombies arrived planted a seed of fear in her heart, and my demonstration of power at the banquet made that fear sprout and grow. She was indeed a smart person, knowing who to attach herself to. She knew the deeper relationship hidden beneath the surface of my breakup with Violet, so she got in touch with me through Violet. She gave me such a big gift as soon as we met. No wonder she was taught by my father personally. She really was astonishing. 20. I took a sip of the tea she made and couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, human hands are more skillful. The tea they make tastes better. Naomi was good at reading people's expressions. Hearing my praise, she smiled. "Sister, you've been among the zombies for so long and are used to eating frozen food. Why don't you let me stay with you for a few days? I can improve your diet." I smiled faintly. "Why do you think I'll let you live?" Although my expression was calm, my words were filled with a sense of danger. The high-level zombies beside her stared at Naomi with their inorganic eyes. Her face turned slightly pale, but then she forced a smile. "Because I'm still useful to you, sister. You've been among the zombies for so long, and of course, they don't dare to hurt you, but accidents can happen. If you get scratched by accident, my healing ability can help you, also. Although I can't kill zombies, relying on the reputation I've built in the human base, I can help Violet gain a firm foothold in power exchanges. After Father's death, Violet will take over the base. with my support, the process will be much easier for her. I can also be your eyes and ears. You trust Violet, but there's a natural conflict between your identities. I can hide in the dark and monitor this potential threat for you, sister. In this way, both humans and zombies will be under your control, and you'll be the supreme uncrowned king of the apocalypse. I will definitely assist you in consolidating your rule. Naomi knew her limits. She leaned cutely on the armrest of my chair, batting her eyes and trying to be endearing. You've analyzed the situation well, but you're wrong about one thing. Naomi's face froze. I reached out and stroked her hair. I smiled and said, I've never trusted anyone, not even Violet. I once told her that I would give her a gift. The Dawn base is the gift I prepared for her. She helped me, and in return, I'm giving her a base to manage. I've given her the opportunity. Whether she can truly take control of the base depends on her own abilities. As for whether I'm worried about her betraying me, I rested my chin in my hand and looked at her playfully. Since I've never trusted her, how can there be betrayal? Naomi's face turned deathly pale. The zombies behind her moved. Their sharp palms pierced through her body, and her eyes widened in shock. I was poisoned by my fiancé and father. They tied me up, dug out the crystal core from my body, and pushed me into the zombie horde. Keep me alive. You still haven't grown at all. You only know how to rely on others, and in the end, you'll be abandoned by others. You're too much like me, equally ruthless. In the previous life, you killed me. How could I make the same mistake in this life? 21. It was late at night. The sky was pitch black, like ink spilled, with not a single star in sight. Violet made a video call. There were a few drops of blood on her. Despite some setbacks, I've taken control of the Dawn base. Now, nothing can stop your progress. You are the uncrowned king of this apocalypse. In front of the huge French window, I lazily sat in a chair edged with gold. My slender fingers casually stirred the warm black tea. After the video call ended and the last light went out, I chuckled, stepped on the blood-stained carpet, and turned to leave the silent room, leaving behind a trail of red footprints. Story 2. I died in the third year of a zombie apocalypse, a time when resources were scarce and the world had become unimaginably tough. Betrayed by my fiancé and best friend, I was pushed into a horde of zombies over an expired can of food. Suddenly, I opened my eyes and realized I had been given a second chance at life. Checking the date on my phone, I found I had 1 month before the zombie outbreak began. Living alone, I had a villa in the suburbs left to me by my parents, though I usually stayed in the university dorms. On the day the zombies took over, my fiancé and best friend happened to be at my villa. Known for my hoarding tendencies and compulsive shopping, I had amassed a substantial stockpile, 20 bags of flour weighing 100 kilograms each, 120-kilogram barrels of olive oil, and dozens of tons of purified water in the basement. My several giant freezers were packed with 200 kilograms each of pork, lamb, and beef, as well as assorted frozen foods. The number of instant meals and snacks was countless, with dozens of boxes of various flavored noodles alone. Exaggeration aside, if these supplies never expired, they could last me a lifetime. The storage room, spanning 20 square meters, was filled to the brim with non-perishable items like paper goods, blankets, clothing, and toiletries. Everyone was amazed by my foresight, especially Anderson, who kept praising my forward thinking. With these supplies, the three of us managed to stay in the villa. By the third year, as supplies began to decay and spoil, we were forced to venture out for food. It was only then, on the brink of death, that I learned my engagement to Anderson was a sham, merely a ploy to secure the house, and he had been having an affair with my friend Tiffany the whole time. Upon waking up from this nightmare, I immediately sought to avoid any complications by obtaining a fake medical emergency document to take a leave of absence from school. My guidance counselor, seeing me so close to death yet personally handling my academic leave, was moved to tears, almost to the point of prostrating in gratitude. It really wasn't necessary. After successfully managing my leave, I blocked everyone's contact. Following the logic of campus legends, rumors of my death would likely circulate within 3 days. That suited me fine. It was as if I was being let off like a fart. Since I had a chance to start over, I decided to sever ties with everyone. Leaving school, I accessed all the savings my parents had left me and immediately hired people to fortify my villa. The perimeter fence was raised by 2 meters, topped with barbed wire, and high-voltage electricity, including sharp spikes. The main gate was reinforced with triple-layered security mesh, strong enough to resist even a power saw. I also had workers dig a deep trench around the villa to trap any approaching zombies. The interior, including the basement, was reinforced with iron plates to make it airtight. Solar panels were installed on the roof, and I brought in 2 generators from a nearby factory to prepare for potential power outages. I cleared the original garden to grow crops and stocked up on various seeds and agricultural books. Knowing that water would be scarce in the apocalypse, I converted every spare room in the villa into water storage. The rooms previously occupied by Anderson and Tiffany were now storerooms. After making these basic modifications to the villa, my next step was to make extensive purchases. I liquidated all my cash and maxed out available loans, steering clear of untrustworthy lending services. Thankfully, online loans helped me gather $5 million. Coincidentally, the largest online shopping festival was happening just 3 days after my rebirth. During these 3 days, while workers reinforced the villa, I shopped relentlessly, stocking up on grains, condiments, toiletries, medical supplies, and ready-to-eat snacks. I claimed every possible coupon and took advantage of every deal, determined to get the most value for my money. When the shopping festival began at midnight, I used my 2 decades of singlehood-honed reflexes to swiftly check out my cart, even snagging many freebies and substantial prizes due to the large amounts I spent. Thanks to the shopping festival, I managed to get nearly $10 million worth of supplies from the supermarket for just $4 million. That night, I went to sleep utterly content. In the days that followed, I was busy receiving deliveries. I organized all the parcels in various storage rooms of my villa, categorizing them meticulously. To maximize space, I dismantled all the packaging boxes but didn't throw them away. Instead, I piled them up on an empty lot of the villa. These cardboard boxes are quite versatile. They can serve as beds or even as firewood. During the days spent remodeling the house and waiting for deliveries, I scavenged through Temu and seafood markets, picking up all sorts of odd items that seemed useless to others: old fishing lines, flint, matches, climbing ropes, drones, camouflage outfits, and professional outdoor gear like storm jackets and hiking boots. These survival tools are usually expensive when new, but I found some second-hand ones that were almost new and at a fraction of the cost. I wasn't fussy about new or old. As long as they worked, that was enough. After finishing the house renovations, I started going out. I needed to buy some items that weren't available online, like weapons. I had already purchased baseball bats and zwilling chef knives, but I was cautious about searching and buying them too frequently as it might attract the attention of cyber police. I didn't want to waste my precious time dealing with police and explaining why I suddenly prepared so many supplies. In my country, getting weapons was always tricky. I put a lot of effort into it, delving deep into hidden alleys. Eventually, I actually found it. A black market. Weapons were pricey, and the million I had left wasn't enough to buy much. Moreover, the leader of the black market made me nervous. He was incredibly handsome, with a suffocating masculinity. Just his gaze made my calves tremble. I quickly bought 2 guns and 5 magazines of bullets, along with 2 knives, and then I wanted to leave. But as I turned to go, I heard, "Wait, give her 2 more hand grenades." Holding the 2 hand grenades, I was completely at a loss. The man, with a cigarette dangling from his lips, suddenly smiled and asked, "Young lady, what are you buying these for?" I kept my head down, silent. He asked again, "Do you know how to use them?" I softly replied, "I've seen them used on TV." He scoffed. All right. I was thrilled to have purchased the weapons, but upon returning to the villa, I encountered an unwelcome sight. Anderson and Tiffany were at the doorstep of my villa, and I saw him using a crowbar on my door. I was almost furious. My door, which cost $100,000 to install, was being tampered with. The zombies haven't even arrived yet, and if you dare damage it, I'd shoot you right away. With a gun in hand, I felt incredibly empowered. I caught them red-handed trying to pick the lock, and there was a moment of awkwardness. However, Anderson quickly accused me anxiously. "Armani, I heard from the counselor that you were critically ill with brain cancer. Why didn't you tell me?" Tiffany added, "Yeah, Armani, why did you block us? Do you know how worried we were?" They stood there as if on a moral high ground, as if under a halo of saintliness. As if I had brain cancer. If I didn't have cancer in my brain, Why would I have fostered these two ingrates for 3 years in my past life? Now, their urgency is evident, but do they really think I can't see the excitement in their eyes? If I die, being without an heir, they could claim my villa for themselves. Unfortunately for them, with the apocalypse less than a week away, every second counts for me. I don't have time to deal with them and need to get inside. Yet, I hear Anderson's odd voice from behind. Armani, why did you remodel the house like this? My heart suddenly skipped a beat. 9. It's probably the fear of being unable to pay back a high-interest loan and getting chopped up, said a chilling voice near my ear. This time, my heart didn't just skip a beat. It nearly stopped altogether. It was the crime boss, Lewis. It really is this little girl. She vanished into thin air after borrowing our money. One of his henchmen pointed at me and shouted, Anderson and Tiffany looked at me suspiciously. Armani, what's this about a high-interest loan? Seeing their worried faces, one might think I had meddled with their very livelihoods. I decided to concoct a story on the spot. I fell ill, and all my money went into my treatment. I didn't want to mortgage the house left by my parents, so I borrowed $5 million with high interest to cover medical expenses. $5 million. Both Anderson and Tiffany were shocked, but before they could say anything more, the crime boss clicked his tongue impatiently, his presence overwhelmingly commanding. In an instant, Anderson, Tiffany, and I obediently lined up like little chicks, almost ready to bow and greet him respectfully. Can either of you help her repay the loan? Anderson and Tiffany shook their heads with complex expressions, prompting a scoff from the crime boss. Then get lost. Do you want to end up maimed like her? Anderson and Tiffany scurried away, leaving me standing alone and vulnerable in the cold wind. Armani, debtor number 001, you've taken out a loan of $500,000 from us, with a compound interest rate of 10. Today is the repayment date. Not bad, girl, using my money to buy weapons from me. Time to pay up, the crime boss said, puffing on a cigarette and holding a ledger, ready to collect the debt. I swear to heaven I never took such a morally bankrupt loan. I suspected the crime boss was pulling a fast one on me, but I dared not utter a word. With less than a week before a zombie outbreak, except for the live poultry and seafood I ordered, only the water purification system had yet to arrive. I did the math, feeling desolate. I had budgeted too tightly. Forget 50,000, I couldn't even scrape together 500. I pulled a hand grenade from my coat. Big brother, would this do? The crime boss glanced at the grenade in my hands. Using the things I gave you to settle your debts. Armani, you really have some nerve, I humbly replied. It's okay, isn't it? Who else did you borrow from? I can't remember. He scoffed again. Wow, you really are something. In the end, the crime boss left without getting any money, even taking 2 buckets of red paint he said were too heavy to carry. According to his henchmen, carrying red paint is standard when they go out to collect debts. However, they had never seen a fortified villa like mine. It was such a mess that it didn't need any more trashing. Looking at my postmodern Chinese-style villa, I sneered in the manner of the crime boss. Pfft, what do they know? I cheerfully placed the paint on a small cart and wheeled it into the house. This was a great find. The smell of the paint could numb the zombie's sense of smell. Truly an unexpected gain. The crime boss came to collect debts again, this time by himself. When he arrived, I was digging a trench in front of my villa, with the sunlight behind him. His expression was unclear while I stood in the trench, covered in dirt. It seemed he had no intention of burying me alive, so I began to feel more at ease, setting up fishing lines and twisting hemp ropes in the trench, determined to make it the last line of defense against all zombies. After a while, he left without saying a word. He really was a strange man. With less than 3 days to the zombie outbreak, I've entered the final sprint of my preparations. The chicks, ducklings, and piglets that I purchased are all penned up, and the fish, shrimp, and crabs are now in the pond that I had dug in my backyard. The custom-made water recycling purifiers and water distillation systems have been installed, ensuring a reliable water supply for the later stages of the apocalypse. Due to the large quantity of goods I ordered online, I encountered some after-sales issues, leaving me no choice but to opt for a refund. This gave me some extra cash, including my last bit of credit card and Alipay credit. I'm ready to go out for one final shopping spree. According to my plan, I will spend most of the first 3 years of the apocalypse in my villa. To keep myself entertained, I've downloaded a plethora of novels, TV shows, movies, and games onto every electronic device I own, including TVs, computers, tablets, a Nintendo Switch, and a PS5. I also hauled a truckload of outdated comic books and magazines from a local secondhand book market back to my warehouse. After reading, I can use them as fuel for fire, making good use of waste. This setup should nicely pass the time during my solitary apocalypse days. In my last life, it was always me who went out to find food while Tiffany and Anderson made excuses, one out of fear and the other to guard our supplies, to avoid leaving the house. This time, I'm not playing the martyr. First, I drove the small truck my father used for his business to pick up several barrels of diesel. It was hard to come by, and it will fuel my two vehicles, the small truck and an SUV. Then, I drove to the largest supermarket in town. After careful calculations, I figured I could still spend a total of $200,000 with my cash and new bank cards. I posed as a small supermarket owner stocking up on supplies and checked my inventory for any last-minute needs. My focus this time was on perishable greens. I planned to store half in the fridge and turn the other half into pickles. Any that spoiled could still feed my chickens, ducks, and geese. The supermarket manager was thrilled with a customer like me boosting his KPIs. He even kindly assigned a tall and burly loader to help me, but when I saw him, I froze for a second, recognizing the familiar scent of fear. It was Black Boss again. This was no ordinary loader. The manager had set me up with a top-tier problem. His sharp glance threw me a warning, as if to say, make a wrong move, and you're dead. Surprisingly, once Black Boss changed into the supermarket uniform and toned down his gangster vibe, he almost looked like an innocent young man. I heard the manager call him Louis, watching a notorious black market boss actually move goods for me was surreal. As he exerted himself, the perfect muscle lines on his arms and neck swayed before my eyes, challenging my limits and making me a bit giddy. Did your loan sharking business finally go under? I blurted out, unable to help my sharp tongue. He shot me a sideways glance. Even if it did, you still owe me money, right? Right. I nodded nonchalantly. With the apocalypse just days away, 500,000 wouldn't even be worth a bag of rice, and I had plenty of rice. Maybe my attitude wasn't sincere enough. As Louis suddenly stopped and frowned at me, you got brain cancer. I struggled internally, feeling like admitting so would make me seem like a deceitful woman on her deathbed, but then my conscience kicked in. No, I'm fine, I was just tricking them. Louis's expression was unreadable as he asked, why? I softly replied, they did bad things to me. Louis nodded, his tone fierce. Good, because if you don't pay up, I'll have to kill you. Is this man allergic to romance? With such a sad atmosphere, he still dwells on this. As I was about to leave, he suddenly asked, Armani, if you come across someone who deeply hurt you in the past, what would you do? I thought about it. Here's a translation that captures the essence without being too literal. Speaking seriously, you can't always think about biting back when bitten by a dog. I will continue to live my life earnestly on my chosen path. But if they hurt me again, I will make sure to strike first. Louis smiled, a smile that reminded me of the high school heartthrob I once had a crush on. Pure, clear, dazzling. It wasn't until he looked at me quizzically that I hurriedly shifted my gaze away. When it was time to part ways with Louis, he suddenly said to me, little trickster, don't go out anymore after you get back. Sitting in the car, I tilted my head in confusion. Suddenly, the news on the supermarket TV began broadcasting. Currently, a new virus is spreading in our city. Please wear masks when going out and avoid crowded places. I sharply turned to look at Louis. His expression was enigmatic. His lips parted as he silently mouthed to me, let's go. I drove home in a panic, thinking I had planned everything well. But I had overlooked one thing. The apocalypse might not arrive instantly. Perhaps in the densely populated university towns and city centers, signs had already been visible. Once home, I immediately started up the generator, connected the external high voltage power, and pulled up the wooden planks over the trenches. With mixed emotions, I lay in bed. Unbelievably, I dreamt of Louis, his inscrutable gaze haunting me through the night. I did not sleep well. 2 days before the zombie outbreak, I dared not leave the house. I began to inventory my final resources and, with what I had, drew up a 10-year plan. Only through disciplined and controlled use of supplies could one survive the apocalypse. Keeping a daily journal was a habit of mine, so this was not difficult. Most of the food would spoil within 1 to 2 years, though freezing could slow this process. Thanks to preservatives, my stockpiled items like instant noodles, canned goods, and compressed biscuits would last many years. However, after 5 years, livestock and aquaculture products would need to be my main food sources. Fortunately, having helped my grandmother feed chickens and ducks and harvest crops in my childhood would now come in handy. The villa's garden was too small for a greenhouse, so I crafted a simple one myself. After making records, I went into the kitchen to pickle the large amount of vegetables I had just bought into sauerkraut. As I looked at the vegetables filling the kitchen, Louis's figure floated before my eyes. I shook my head. Stop thinking about it, Armani. This might be the last time you see him. In an apocalypse where life was cheap, everyone struggled to survive. I just wanted to lie low in my villa. Louis, from the moment I saw him, I knew he was destined for greater things. We were from completely different worlds. I stored the pickled vegetables in the villa's cellar. After a busy day, I treated myself generously. Despite hoarding so much, I still indulged. For dinner, I had sweet and sour chili peppers, braised prawns, and winter melon pork rib soup. It tasted fantastic, even if there was no room for creativity in the apocalypse. My cooking skills had not dulled. Having experienced the apocalypse before, I especially cherished food and finished all the dishes with 2 bowls of rice. After dinner, I started watching a series. Watching the half-finished series, I felt it was a pity if I didn't start the advanced playback now. This series would just get buried. The huge gap in the social status of the male and female leads. Will they end up together or not? Damn, I really want to know. Just as the plot reached its climax, suddenly noisy shouting came from outside. Armani, open the door. Armani, something's happened, let us in. It was Anderson and Tiffany. My face instantly darkened, a shadow falling over my eyes. As I left the room, I had armed myself with a gun purchased from Louis. The entire villa was fortified to be completely airtight. As I approached the door, only a wall separated me from them. Hearing me open the door, Anderson and Tiffany were visibly excited, shouting, Armani, hurry and open up. I remained silent. Armani, zombies have appeared in the college town, just like in the movies. We barely escaped. Let us in first, Tiffany pleaded. Anderson added, yes, Armani, it's too dangerous for a girl to live alone in the suburbs. Let us in, I will protect you. I couldn't help but let out a sarcastic chuckle. Protect me? How shameless one must be to utter such words. My laughter made their shouting even more frantic. Suddenly, they quieted down. Through the door, Anderson's voice carried a chilling resentment. Armani, why won't you let us in? How can you stand by and do nothing? Do you know something? And why has your villa suddenly turned into this fortress? Images of Louis questioning me flashed through my mind. I had always been worried about attracting police attention, but now, it seemed the time had come. My custom-made door had 3 layers, an outer stainless steel security gate, a middle layer of electrified wire mesh, and the innermost actual door. I suddenly opened the door. The calculating and vicious expressions on Anderson and Tiffany's faces were evident. Too late to hide, they had many injuries, and I was quite satisfied with the effectiveness of my traps. On seeing me, they stiffened momentarily, then quickly switched to ingratiating smiles. I smiled back and then raised the gun in my hand. Bang, that was just an exclamation, but it terrified Anderson and Tiffany out of their wits. Anderson even screamed and hid behind Tiffany. Seeing their pathetic state, I suddenly found it all very dull. Did I really want to stain my hands with the blood of such despicable people? I chose to reconcile with myself. Consider me a saint if you will. Ignoring their horrified faces, I shut the door and left. That night, I slept unusually soundly. However, in the middle of the night, I thought I heard something in my sleep, but when I got up the next day to check, I found nothing. Today marked the day when the zombie apocalypse had fully erupted in my previous life. I spent the entire day in front of the television, watching as one after another, the stations that were still broadcasting either turned into news programs or static. It felt as though the world had changed in an instant. That evening, I turned on the serialized TV show I had been following. Unsurprisingly, it hadn't been updated. In that moment, as the dust settled in my heart, there was also a tinge of regret. My life of solitude in the post-apocalyptic world had officially begun. My villa, located in a remote area, rarely saw zombies even in my previous life. With my preparations this time, I hadn't seen a single zombie yet. Occasionally, the sound of passing vehicles would suddenly tense my nerves, in this post-apocalyptic world, the malice of human hearts could be even more frightening than the zombies themselves. I suddenly realized there was a small problem with the chickens and ducks I had bought previously. Watching them, even though they were from the same batch, several underdeveloped chicks and ducklings that only ate but didn't grow had me falling into silence. I thought, maybe I should just eat them today, as just feeding them without growth isn't really working out. What kind of household can sustain such a consumption? However, considering the value of live poultry, I cautiously searched online. Although many websites were abandoned in the early days of the apocalypse, a few were still accessible. After some searching, I discovered that among my batch of meat chickens and ducks, 2 looting chickens and 2 cold ducks had somehow been mixed in. I wondered if they had been mistakenly caught while eloping. The very evening I decided to eat those small, non-growing creatures. As I was sharpening my knife, they each laid an egg. Hesitating for a moment, I marveled at the greatness of nature's life and the animal's will to survive. I put down the kitchen knife and took out the egg incubator I had purchased in advance. I became fascinated with incubating eggs. Every morning as soon as I woke up, I couldn't help but check on those 2 eggs. A week later, I examined the eggs under a light and saw the faintly beating hearts and gradually growing blood vessels inside, which made my eyes tear up a bit. In the apocalypse, new life always brought joy. In the following days, I acted like a diligent chicken mother. Looting chickens and cold ducks have different incubation times and environmental needs. Looting chickens take 16 days, while cold ducks need 26 days, and duck eggs require higher humidity than chicken eggs. Every day, I recorded the conditions of these 2 eggs. Half a month passed by unnoticed. This morning, when I went to check on my eggs as usual, the looting chicken egg was supposed to be close to hatching, but there was still no movement. Fearing it might suffocate inside, I carefully made a small hole in the shell with tweezers. I spent the whole day squatting beside it, even skipping meals. When I saw the tiny beak of the looting chicken poking through the hole I made, I couldn't help but cry tears of joy. The little looting chicken was born, and I named it Reserve Ration Number 1. I brought its mother to see her, but she was too busy indulging in love and had no interest in childcare. She pretended to look for a moment and then fluttered away after securing another egg as a protection fee. I looked at the freshly laid, still warm egg and Reserve Ration Number 1 in my hand, gritting my teeth and thinking, today, I'm going to raid your home. In the end, I marked the new egg and placed it in the incubator. After checking on the still developing cold duck, I went to water the fruits and vegetables in my garden. While watering, I suddenly heard the cries of a zombie outside. My spirits immediately lifted. A living, moving zombie. This might very well be the first zombie I've encountered since the apocalypse began. It even excited me a bit. I opened the inner door and felt a strange sense of familiarity when I saw the stumbling, limb-missing zombie outside. Living alone for so long, even a zombie seemed attractive to me, but once the novelty wore off, I immediately turned around to grab my machete. Strangely, when I returned, the zombie had vanished. Puzzled, I wondered if it had wandered off somewhere else. I peered around but saw no sign of the zombie, so I reluctantly put down the knife. Although itching for some action, I clearly preferred this more laid-back lifestyle. The looting chicken grew quickly, able to walk and feed itself independently within a week. She was a girl who enjoyed frolicking around the house, leaving little droppings as a mark of her presence. Small, cute, and particularly irritating, the day finally came for the cold duck to hatch, which proved much more challenging than the looting chicken. Fortunately, with some experience under my belt, although it was a close call, I managed, but ultimately, I succeeded in having a great son who shares no blood relation with me and is even of a different race. Recently, a very practical problem presented itself right before me. I sat solemnly in my vegetable garden, observing the main culprits that were forming factions right in front of me. It had been nearly 2 months since the birth of Reserve Food No. 1, and the Rudden chickens only needed 1.5 months to reach maturity. Considering the daily offerings from the initial Rudden chicken, I estimated that I owned about 30 chickens, which would soon contribute to expanding the flock at the rate of 1 egg per day. Enough already. I forced myself to stop this dreadful calculation, just as I was worrying about how to deal with the chicks I had hatched myself. I suddenly heard from outside the door, "Hello, Quick Money Loans, come to rob money, debtor no, 001, what are you planning to repay?" I sharply turned my head, suppressing the surprise in my heart, and asked, The person outside was clearly impatient, and I unconsciously imagined him scoffing with a cigarette in his mouth. Your creditor. I opened the small window in the door and peered through the layers of iron mesh at the person outside. Perhaps because of my incredulous stare, he couldn't help but chuckle. Dazzled for a moment, my expression grew even more puzzled. Lewis took out his collection book. Dead or no, 001, Armani, currently 3 installments overdue, with compound interest. You owe a total of 200,000 this period. Seeing my complicated expression, he raised an eyebrow. Any problems? I said. I might look foolish in your eyes, but I'm not blind, Lewis scoffed, showing me the empty ledger. So, you're not paying? I earnestly nodded. I don't have the money. However, just then, a rotten chicken walked over my foot and left a pile of droppings on my shoe. Seized by a sudden courage, I grabbed the chick and passed it through the small window towards Lewis. Just as my hand was about to touch the high-voltage iron mesh, he suddenly frowned. Wait, this was the first time I saw Lewis raise his voice, and I shivered, my calves trembling again as I reached out. He pursed his lips. Seeing the rotten chicken revealed in my open palm, his eyebrows almost twisted into knots. Thinking he was dissatisfied with my offering, I tried hard to sell it. Don't be fooled by its size. This chicken breeds very quickly, producing a brood in just 1.5 months, and it tastes almost like a regular chicken, very delicious. Lewis and the little chicken in my palm stared at each other, seemingly still unsatisfied. I had no choice but to grab a few more, trying to win by quantity. Through the door, I handed him the chicks one by one. I called out to him. Take them, quick, as if I were an overly attentive mother. After a brief silence, Lewis took the chickens. The moment our fingers touched, I felt a slight burn. Later, as there were too many chicks, Lewis couldn't hold them all and stuffed them into his pockets. When Lewis left, I saw reserve food no. One poking its head out of his pocket. It looked up defiantly, flapping its wings against its chest as if questioning my conscience. As Lewis walked away, he left a remark. This will only count as interest. After dealing with Lewis, I breathed a sigh of relief. I was quite pleased. The problem of too many rotten chickens was neatly solved. Today is our country's Lunar New Year. My apple tree in the backyard has also reached its fruitful harvest season. Hearing the familiar jumbled sounds outside the house, I glanced through the peephole and opened the door. Seeing my outfit, Lewis paused for a second. What are you doing? His tone unsure. I looked down at my floral jacket, touched my green headscarf, and noticed one hand was dusty. The red and green outfit was quite the sight. I'm picking apples, I replied. He seemed somewhat skeptical. Here to collect debts again? I asked. Lewis nodded. I laughed. What a coincidence. I handed him a bag of apples. Let these apples offset the debt. Apples, the fruit of peace. I wish you well. As he took the apples and before leaving, he said with his back towards me, Happy New Year. I was momentarily stunned, then softly replied, Happy New Year. After my parents passed away, I got used to spending New Year's alone. In these apocalyptic times, resources are precious, so I didn't splurge, just prepared a few exquisite dishes. I took out some sausages I had made with a stuffer that had been airing out and tasted quite good. Maybe next time Lewis comes, I can use them to offset the debt. Suddenly, I found that today Lewis seemed especially easy to appease. A few apples were enough to send him on his way. I hope it stays this way, amen. At night, I took out an old book I had scavenged before the apocalypse and read it with great interest. After some time, I turned off the light, finished my reading notes, and went to bed early. That night, I had a wonderful dream featuring my dearly departed parents. With no zombies in sight, time flies, and soon after the new year, it was already heading towards April. Recently, I discovered tadpoles in my pond, already with tails and hind legs when I found them. Let me discuss a highly controversial topic from the perspective of the origin of the universe. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? There are no frogs in my pond, so where did these tadpoles come from? Worried that the fish might eat these little tadpoles, I set aside a separate area of the pond for them. In the following days, I eagerly awaited the transformation of my tadpoles into bullfrogs, and eventually into spicy pickled bullfrogs. That was until Lewis showed up again, when I mentioned to him that I might be able to offer him some bullfrogs next time. He fell silent for a second, then gave me a look that spoke volumes. Armani, did you know, the tadpoles from March to April are all toads, he said. My eyes widened in surprise. I slammed the door in anger, cutting off Lewis's mocking laughter and outright refusing his request. If I can't have bullfrogs, then neither can you. No one gets to benefit from this. Using the only working website I had left, I found out that indeed, the tadpoles from early spring, March and April, are all toads. Frog tadpoles aren't around until May. During the winter, toads burrow into the mud and hibernate in burrows they dig with their well-developed hind limbs. It seems that toads must have infiltrated my pond for hibernation early in the apocalypse. Reluctantly, I had to scoop all these tadpoles out. Although toads are good for crops, I really can't stand their appearance. Just as I was bagging the tadpoles, wondering how to proceed with the killing, I suddenly heard from outside, "Once you've scooped them all up, give them to me. I'm giving you a break this time, consider it interest." It was Lewis. He hadn't left yet. As I handed him the bag, I curiously asked, "What do you want these tadpoles for?" He smiled, "To grow them and then go eat swan meat." He's always been handsome, but even more so when he smiles. Suddenly, I found myself looking forward to his next visit to collect debts. Recently, I've noticed an increase in the number of zombies. This is unusual. In my previous life, it took until the 3rd year for this to happen. If zombies are becoming more numerous even in my remote location, I wonder what it's like in the cities. I used my binoculars to check the surroundings and, seeing no abnormalities, I took my machete and swiftly killed all the zombies loitering near my villa. This was not difficult for me. After my parents passed away, I took up freestyle fighting, not to brag, but in our community, at the 52 kilograms level, I'm unbeatable. When Lewis arrived, he just so happened to witness me slicing the last zombie's brain in half. Much like chopping vegetables, the brain bounced a couple of times on the ground, scattering brain matter along its path. Both Lewis and I ended up focusing on the bouncing brain, even nodding slightly with its bouncing motion. Feeling his gaze, I smiled sheepishly, the blade of my large machete still dripping with some unidentifiable fluid. The atmosphere was weird yet somewhat comical. Lewis watched me enter my house, and I hesitated about whether to invite him in. However, the state of the world made me hold back. Fortunately, it seemed Lewis also had little interest in entering my rather unimpressive stronghold. We had reached some sort of understanding. He would visit periodically, and I would prepare goods to offer him in advance. This time, I had prepared a basket of potatoes. June was the prime season for potatoes. Unexpectedly, he refused to take them. I looked at him incredulously, wondering if he had lost his mind. It's the apocalypse. To think he didn't even want potatoes. How inflated must his ego be? Yet all he said was, "Armani, don't go out anymore. Leave the zombies outside alone. Others will handle them." I blinked, struggling to grasp his meaning. People will handle it. You mean the property management will come with a forklift to remove the zombies? I asked. Lewis gave me a look that made me feel like a piece of rotting wood. Lewis left, and the words he spoke as he departed inexplicably filled me with unease. Anxiety made it hard for me to sit still, and I suddenly regretted just watching him go without saying anything. Back at the villa, I moved from room to room, checking my supplies over and over, as if that could somehow make me feel secure. As days passed, the intervals between Lewis's visits grew longer. Sometimes, I had to replace the supplies I had prepared as they were at risk of spoiling from the long wait. Then, 3 months went by without a sign of him. I reverted to my solitary lifestyle, no longer needing to worry about supplies. My planted fruits and vegetables were maturing orderly, and my supplies began to grow. Like a tireless squirrel, I started storing the surplus food using various methods to prepare for the second winter since the apocalypse. Living alone was exceedingly lonely, and despite the scarcity of resources in this post-apocalyptic world, I couldn't resist getting a pet. It was a cold duck I had hatched early on, whom I named Dada. Every morning, Dada would peck me awake at my bedside, his small, green bean-like eyes staring at me, reminding me of how you used to urge me to meet deadlines. Cold ducks don't eat much. Once grown, they eat 3 meals a day, and aside from their special duck feed, I would add some spoiled vegetables. Dada wasn't picky and ate everything like a garbage can. I was quite pleased with his practicality. Before winter officially began, Lewis appeared again. At that time, I was harvesting radishes, imagining all the dishes and pickles I could make with them. He appeared silently at the door, and as if by telepathy, I hurried to open it, seeing Lewis, thinner and darker, with a scent of blood and gloom that seemed too thick to dissipate. He looked exhausted. Tentatively, I asked, "Are you here to collect a debt?" He shook his head. "I came to see you." At that moment, my heart felt like it was about to leap out of my throat. He noticed my wide-open eyes and slightly curled his lips. Just as he was about to turn and leave, I suddenly spoke. "Louis, would you like to come in for a bit?" He turned, frowned at me, and said, "Armani, you still haven't learned." His sudden stern tone made me feel both sour and aggrieved. Louis left, and I had a feeling he wouldn't return this time. Another winter came around. In winter, there are few leafy greens available for consumption. Cabbage, spinach, and radishes are some of the few vegetables that withstand the cold. The piglets I had bought before the apocalypse had grown and had litters of their own, leading to an uncontrollable situation as my garden became increasingly crowded, and the smell was so strong it kept my head buzzing all day. Eventually, considering the limited space, I decided to turn to my pigsty. Slaughtering a pig alone was not easy. The boar, fat and heavy, was tied up by me, and I pinned its head under my foot. With a swift motion of my knife, I ended its life. I then butchered the whole pig, cleaned and stored different parts separately. This task was far from easy for me. A full-grown male pig about a year old weighs around 400 to 500 kilograms, not to mention the pork. Just the offal alone weighs about 50 kilograms. Their odor is so strong that even zombies would shake their heads at it. After 2 days of continuous work, I finally finished processing the entire pig. When I was done, I realized I had subconsciously set aside a portion. Looking at the extra 50 kilograms of pork and offal I had reserved, I fell silent for a moment. Then, I stored them separately in the freezer. As the new year approached, I carefully selected a perfectly shaped piece of pork belly and large intestines to roast. With the remaining quality meat, I made many dumplings filled with pork and green onions, pork with cabbage, and pork with pickled vegetables. I made the dough and rolled out the wrappers myself, shaping each dumpling like a little treasure, plump and mouth-watering. For the new year, fried dishes were a must. I enjoyed eggplant and lotus root patties, and also crispy fried pork. I used the eggplants I had harvested last summer. When I got the lotus roots, I felt somewhat reluctant to use them. Growing aquatic plants like lotus roots was too demanding, and eating them meant having less. As I finished up and looked back, I had prepared more this year compared to the last. With the sounds of zombies roaming outside the villa, the new year quietly arrived. Even though I was alone in the villa, I could sense that the spread of zombies this time was worse than in my previous life. I didn't know what was happening outside, but hoped the zombie horde wouldn't reach my villa. Beyond that, there was nothing I could do. This new year, due to the turbulent times, I felt no joy. After eating the New Year's Eve dinner alone and cleaning up the leftovers, I opened a new book. Just like last year, the book remained on the title page until nightfall. Suddenly, a familiar roaring sound came from outside, and I rushed out with a belated joy on my face. As I stepped outside, I suddenly paused, frowning. I turned back to grab my binoculars to look outside, and when I saw that the person in the car was not Louis, I immediately closed the villa's high-voltage electric gates. To save electricity, the villa lights were off, and I observed the people in the car from the shadows using my binoculars. He looked familiar. He was the same underling who had come with Louis to collect debts before. He was the one who had gruffly carried down those 2 buckets of red paint. When I saw him get out of the car, I cocked my handgun. Surprisingly, after getting out of the car, he didn't approach my villa. Instead, he raised his hands high, and when he opened his palms, I saw a glossy little chicken inside, proudly raising its head. Its sesame seed-sized eyes looked disdainfully at the foolish humans around it. It was clear it was pampered and well-fed. Considering there might not be a third person in this apocalypse absurd enough to raise a Rudian chicken, I opened the gate, separated by the high-voltage wire fence. The underling and I stared at each other. He said his name was Thomas, a trusted aide of Louis. Then, he showed me the tokens Louis had sent with him, a Rudian chicken, an apple, a tomato, and a toad. It seems Louis really did manage to raise those tadpoles. After showing me these items, he carefully packed them back into his bag like treasures. I was somewhat curious about why Louis had sent Thomas, but then, Thomas did something that stunned me. He took out the familiar, unwritten ledger that had always been in Louis's hands and tore it to shreds right in front of me. It was as if the already tenuous connection between me and Louis was completely severed. He then looked up seriously and said to me, Louis's exact words, "Debt or no, 001, Armani, your debts have been fully paid. From now on, there are no further ties." After that, Ignoring my dumbfounded expression, he turned and walked away. Seeing him about to leave, I lost my composure and, forgetting about the high voltage, started to chase after him. Thomas turned his head in shock and exclaimed, "Slow down." I wondered how he knew the layout of my house. It reminded me of the last time I was delivering something to Louis. He had reacted similarly. Suddenly, my mind was flooded with countless pieces of information. I asked him, "Where is Louis?" Thomas's lips tightened, and with a sorrowful look, he replied, "Louis is dead." I was silent for a couple of seconds, my tone complex. "Do you think I'm stupid?" he muttered under his breath. "Not stupid, just naive." I responded with a puzzled, and said clearly, "I don't believe what you're saying." Gritting his teeth, Thomas insisted, "I'm telling the truth, Armani. Louis is dead. Stop waiting for him." As he spoke, Thomas looked about to run off as if chased by dogs. There seems to be some misunderstanding," I said. "I wasn't waiting for him." Caught off guard, Thomas suddenly stopped. He turned around furiously, looking at me as if I were a con artist. Despite being the one who started it, he now seemed infuriated. Angrily, he said, "Why wouldn't you wait for him? Do you have any idea what kind of women Louis could have had with his status? Even the high-class socialites and top female celebrities at the base are all over him. He hasn't even spared them a glance. And you know why. Because of you. What kind of spell did you cast on Louis? Always those little chickens, ducks, yes, and that toad, even. Gifting him a toad had him enchanted, delighted for a whole day over such an ugly creature." Saying this, seemingly unable to contain his anger, Thomas pulled out the toad from his bag and thrust it in front of me. I couldn't help but turn my eyes away. Thomas grew even angrier. "You can't even stand to look at it. Yet Louis treasured it. Do you know the base is overrun with marsh chickens because Louis never let us eat them?" Someone who secretly ate a few was assigned to lead the search team for a week as punishment by Louis. I really didn't know how to respond to that, but it didn't stop me from grinning ear to ear. Seeing my reaction, Thomas seemed to regain some balance. He straightened up and shared a lot with me. As he was leaving, he said earnestly, "Armani, sister-in-law. I'll call you sister-in-law. Could you wait for him, please?" From Thomas, I learned a lot. The first thing was about Anderson and Tiffany. After scaring them off with a gun that day, I never heard from them again. I initially thought they had fled elsewhere for refuge. However, unexpectedly, they died that very night from electrocution by the high-voltage fence at my villa. That night, the noises I vaguely heard in my dreams were Anderson and Tiffany getting electrocuted, and Louis having someone dispose of their bodies. Additionally, the occasional rumbling of vehicles near my villa was explained by Thomas, who said that Louis had people scheduled to clear the zombies around the perimeter of my villa. Not just the zombies, but also anyone coveting my villa would be secretly dealt with by Louis's men. Moreover, I have never really taken out any high-interest loans. All of this, since I entered that black market, was nothing but a carefully crafted excuse by Louis. Suddenly, many details I had previously overlooked flashed through my mind. When I was searching for the black market, it felt as if someone had been there waiting, guiding my steps. Whenever I needed diesel, I would coincidentally find it. The various equipment I sourced from the seafood market, which was good value for money, surprisingly all came through official channels. Additionally, in my previous life, when I went out alone to find food, there always seemed to be a barely visible presence watching over me. I wasn't sure if these events were connected, but I decided I would confront Louis in person to get some clarity. Winter this year was exceptionally cold and remarkably lengthy. I used 3 times the amount of firewood and electricity compared to last year and added several layers to my plant and poultry greenhouses. Despite these efforts, my poultry and plants still suffered some damage. Every morning, I would find frozen dead chickens or vegetables. Sometimes it was chicks, other times fish, or even cabbages. Even those that didn't die looked wilted, huddling together to stay warm. Looking at the lone wintersweet flower proudly standing on its branch in the garden, I secretly hoped that this winter would pass quickly. Fortunately, by May, the weather finally began to warm up. I noticed a significant decrease in the number of zombies after enduring the long, harsh winter. In my previous life, experts had not yet figured out the cause of the zombie transformation. However, through 3 years of combating zombies, people had gained some experience. Cold and darkness slowed the zombies down, and the cold made their sense of smell dull. It was speculated that after an extreme and prolonged cold, Zombies might just go extinct, with the zombie virus remaining buried forever under the deep snow. When that time comes, people would welcome a spring full of blossoming flowers. I was somewhat hopeful, wondering if what I didn't see in my previous life might happen in this one. After a long, harsh winter, the garden I had painstakingly maintained for over a year was nearly destroyed. Thankfully, I had purchased a large quantity of seeds in advance. After clearing the completely frozen roots, I started a new round of planting before the arrival of summer. It was a tremendous task, taking me 4 whole days to complete. Due to the severe winter, the entire seasonal cycle was disrupted, and I could only rely on my experience to plant the seeds at the right time. After planting, time seemed to relax. I moved a lounge chair into the courtyard, sat down with a book, and quietly awaited the sprouting of the new seeds. Recently, I have been hearing loud explosions coming from the center of the city for several days in a row. I am too far from there to see clearly. Even with repeated attempts using a telescope, the layers of buildings still blocked my view. While organizing the warehouse, I stumbled upon a drone that I had picked up from a seafood market long ago. I tried to operate it, but it wouldn't work due to a drained battery. After some rummaging, I found its charger. As it charged, I watched nervously, holding my breath. When it was finally fully charged and operational, I couldn't help but smile. I'm admittedly clumsy. I remember when I first got my driver's license, my driving instructor earnestly told me, "Armani, once you get your license, lock it in a safe. For the sake of humanity, never take it out again." When the drone first took off in my hands, it was shaky, hesitant, and unsure. After several spins, jumps, dives, and circles, it managed to fly in a straight line. Albeit after accidentally clipping half the brain of an innocent bystander zombie. The drone's maximum control range was 7 kilometers, which was too short from my villa to the city center. However, through the drone's camera feed, I discovered that the loud explosions I had been hearing were actually humanity's counterattack against the zombies. The areas reached by the drone were almost cleared of zombies, and now the fiercest battles were happening in the city center, where the zombies were most concentrated. It felt like victory was waving at all of humanity. When I retrieved the drone, my emotions were so stirred that I couldn't calm down for a long time. A week later, one early morning, I was abruptly awakened by loud noises coming from the city center. The fact that I could hear such a commotion even from my location suggested a grand scene in the city center. I had a strong premonition that the apocalypse was over, at least in my city. In that moment, my eyes welled up with tears. Feeling fortunate, I also felt somewhat lost. That day, I sat alone in my vegetable garden all day, sensing my unusual mood. Even the usually carefree dada couldn't help but waddle over and look at me with its nostrils. It pecked me. I pushed it away, and said sternly, "Don't disturb me, I'm thinking." Watching me seriously daydream, Dada jumped into my lap, and we basked in the sun together. As we sunbathed, I began to feel sleepy. In a drowsy state, I thought I heard a familiar lazy, dragging voice from outside. Open the door. I suddenly woke from my dream, and Dada, falling to the ground, looked bewildered. I turned my head directly towards the door, almost burning through the door panel. I didn't know if it was a dream or reality, and I stretched my neck to listen, but this time, I heard nothing. I chuckled self-deprecatingly. "Armani, you really do look like a spoiled, complaining wife." Lewis was right. I never learn. I had never loved Anderson. Agreeing to his advances was merely due to loneliness and a desire for familial warmth. I had long realized that he was involved with Tiffany, and I wasn't angry. In fact, I was relieved, as it gave me a legitimate reason to reject his physical advances. Not understanding why I suddenly fell into melancholy, enveloped by a heavy mood, Dada was a bit bewildered and squawked, "Ga." The next second, "Armani, are you expecting your duck son to open the door for you?" I suddenly stood up with a start and swiftly pulled open the door, seeing the person outside through the wire mesh. I remained silent, observing my stubborn expression. Lewis suddenly laughed. "Armani, you've really outdone yourself. Not only have you managed to gain weight since we last met, look at what Lewis is saying. To be able to eat is a blessing, and keep out of fairy business." Lewis had lost weight, so much so that he looked almost unrecognizable. His hair had grown a bit too long, and his stubble seemed prickly. Even through the door, I could smell the strong scent of gunpowder on him. He must have been involved in the recent crackdown in the city center, and it's very likely he had just returned from the front line. Was he here to share the joy of victory with me? After observing him for a while, I couldn't help but blurt out, "Louis, how could you let yourself go like this?" He frowned at me, as if wondering why I suddenly decided to speak up. We stood facing each other in silence for a while, the atmosphere turning strange. My big toe couldn't help but start fidgeting. "I'm leaving," he said. I suddenly got angry. I questioned him, "Louis, do you like me?" He was taken aback, and before he could react, I went off like a wild horse that had broken free. "Whether you like me or not, I'm laying it out today. I like you." He seemed completely bewildered by my words. For the first time, I experienced the joy he used to feel watching me act foolishly. After a while, he came to his senses, chuckling, "Armani, these are not the kind of words a girl should say first." It seemed like there was no one left in the world who mattered to me. I told him, "A fairy gets who she wants." I kicked open the iron gate, and driven by my fierce aura, he respectfully stepped aside. Approaching him, I looked him straight in the eye. This was the first time I stood so close to Louis. I said, "Don't leave today." After that, I grabbed his hand and led him inside. He let me pull him a few steps, and just as we were about to enter the door, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. Surprised, I turned to look at him. He looked at me seriously and asked, "Armani, do you understand what it means for you to say these things to me, a grown man?" I replied, "Of course I know, Louis, you've come this far. Are you backing out at the last step? Weren't you the one who started this?" Hearing my words, Louis laughed, a mischievous smile spreading across his face. The next second, he took charge, pulling me towards the house with a sense of urgency. Once inside, the cozy atmosphere of my house enveloped us. It seemed like Louis and I finally snapped out of our reckless moment, both of us feeling awkward just standing there. I tried to act natural. "There's water in the electric heater that I filled up this morning. You go take a shower first. I'll fetch my dad's old razor for you. Oh, and maybe trim your hair. It's almost covering your eyes." Louis hummed in agreement. Then let me fuss over him. Considering my limited skills as a Tony hairstylist, I simply gave Louis a buzz cut. In the mirror, I could see Louis sitting while I stood above him. His gaze was intense, making my hand tremble as I touched his hair. This time around, I didn't have many men's clothes prepared, so I handed Louis a simple white t-shirt and sweatpants. "You go shower first. I'll cook," I said. I fished a fish and some shrimp out of the pond, took some stored vegetables from the cold storage, and used the pork that was left over from yesterday. I prepared sweet and sour fish, blanched shrimp, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, and cabbage-wrapped meat. I also caught 2 chickens and stewed a pot of chicken soup. While I was halfway through cooking, Louis finished his shower. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him wearing the clothes I gave him, leaning casually against the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, head tilted, and legs crossed. He kept watching me, distracted. I accidentally added an extra spoonful of salt as the rice bubbled away. I finished cooking the chicken soup, prepared the blanched shrimp with dipping sauce, and seasoned it with scallions, ginger, garlic, soy sauce, steamed fish soy sauce, rice vinegar, sesame oil, hot oil, small chili peppers, and green onions. Mixing everything well, I softly announced, "Dinner's ready." Louis naturally came over and began serving the dishes I had prepared. When I brought out 2 bowls of rice, he was already sitting there waiting for me. At that moment, it seemed as if Louis had absorbed the mundane essence of the world. After dinner, Louis told me a story. He spoke of a man who grew up in the mud, working his way up as a minion in the black market until the apocalypse arrived. The man then helped the black market boss establish a base, which was rife with chaos, violence, and cheap human lives where the living were no different from the dead. Women would trade themselves for a piece of bread, men would betray their wives and children, and friends and relatives would stab each other in the back for survival. When the tension became unbearable, the man would sneak off to a deserted area to smoke during supply runs. One day, a girl appeared in this sanctuary. She was always out gathering supplies, rushed and vigilant. It's worth mentioning that her driving was consistently terrible, often causing the man to worry for her. Over time, the man realized this girl was living with another man and a woman who betrayed her by having an affair in her absence. He knew his interest in her had crossed the line of mere curiosity. In such chaotic times, a man of his humble origins wasn't supposed to dream of love. He cared deeply but had to withdraw his feelings. One day, as usual, he went out for supplies. feeling a sense of foreboding. He was ready for his end, but when he saw the girl being pushed defenselessly into a horde of zombies, he snapped. The gun that should have targeted the zombies was turned without hesitation towards the treacherous couple, and in that moment, he was overwhelmed by the horde. Later, I asked him, "Louis, why didn't you come to find me from the start?" He replied, "Armani, a country must come before a home. In this life, I want to give you a home."